just kind of state there.
Across North America, and I'd like to invite to the stage Jonathan Grecian. He's the co-founder of the Founder Institute. Caroline Mibel, she's the president of the Forum Économique International de Noir, and Maria Locker, she's the founder and CEO of Mompreneur. Welcome to the stage, everybody. Great to have you here. Okay, we're going to dive right into it. You can find more about these amazing rock stars on LinkedIn, all their profiles. We had a big description on who they are and what they're doing there. I was going to talk about, but I want to dive into the questions. So today is all about finding new networks. That's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to provide you insight on networks that we can offer to entrepreneurs and how to get involved. So to start off, a question to all of you in 30 seconds or less. You know, you each run unique entrepreneur networks, each one of you. And you are an entrepreneur in your own right also. What got you started? Let's start with that. What got you started, and why did you launch your network? Because this is all about networks. So do you want to start with Maria? And speak and put the mic way, I got
nice
it.
Nice up and tight? Okay.
Love it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maria Locker. I started the Mompreneurs Network in 2010 because I saw a need for women entrepreneurs who were also mothers to get out of their comfort zone and actually share the fact that they were entrepreneurs. So that's really what I found. There was a lack of communication for women. They felt like if they were also taking care of their family, they weren't necessarily the big businesswoman in public that they wanted to be. And I really wanted to bring that out of women. So we've grown our network to 17,000 across the country. There's a lot of women to do it.
And by the way, when she says moms, she means moms from baby born to empty nest moms.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, right on. Very, very cool. And you even have some dads in your mom group too, don't you?
We do. There's some here, actually. They're here
right
somewhere,
on.
yes.
The dads that are the mompreneurs. I love it.
Yes.
Okay, Caroline, what about your network? What got you started?
Hi, my name is Caroline, and I'm...
Put the mic, yeah, thank you. It's just really noisy. Thank you.
Is it close enough?
Awesome.
So I founded the International Black Economic Forum because, like she said, Kelly, I'm really... the spark for me is black. I believe in black talents. I believe that black people are creative, even though we don't have the place, the space to showcase it. So I wanted to create a space where we could showcase the talents of black people, the capacity of creating wealth. And I wanted to remind them that they are wealth creators as well. So that was the idea. Find a space where we could do just that.
Right on. And Jonathan?
Yeah, sure. So is this close enough?
That's good, man. Thank you.
So we started the Founder Institute because we were running a website called thefunded.com, which was a place where anybody who was raising money could kind of rate and review venture capitalists. And we realized we were turning away about 80% of the people trying to join that site because they thought they were ready for funding, but there were like 50 steps before that they needed to do. Right. So we saw kind of this gap of people at the idea stage of starting a company that needed a network and kind of training on those first steps to get them ready for a lot of the other resources that are available, and that's how the Founders Institute started.
Yeah, and he's being very humble with it. You've got chapters all around the world, correct? And so how does an entrepreneur get started in the journey with the Founders Institute?
Sure. So yeah, we operate in over 60 countries. We have 5 chapters in Europe, or 5 chapters in Canada, I should say, including Ottawa. There's an application process. For us, we work with entrepreneurs at such an early stage that we don't even really care about your idea. We actually have you take a test, a standardized personality test that we've been developing now for over 9 years to try to find people with kind of the raw ingredients, the raw traits.
That's very cool.
To kind of hustle, learn quickly, to build a company.
That's very cool. And have you ever had anybody fail the test?
It's not a pass-fail test. We don't accept everybody, but no, it's not pass-fail.
So tell us about some of the programs. Once they're in the Institute and in the journey with your group, what are some programs that you folks offer to your clients?
Sure. So the core program is a 3.5-month idea stage accelerator. Every single week you're meeting with different mentors, sharing with them your ideas, your go-to-market, and it's in a very structured way, 16 weeks from beginning to end. I think the most unique part of the program is that there's a shared equity model where all of the mentors that are providing you with guidance share equity in your company. So it basically reinforces this really strong network of people that are just starting out and people that have done it before, to be incentivized to work together to build something great.
Yeah, that is so cool. Well, congratulations on the journey you're doing and the impacts you're making. It's very cool. Maria, we're going to skip down to you. How many chapters does Mompreneur have?
We started out with chapters.
Yes.
In our startup stage. We had chapters. We had about 12 all
Right.
across the country. We're actually revising that now, where we're one just massive network with ideally different events and
Cool.
scale up in each location.
And so how do you work with Mompreneurs?
Well, we put on educational events, conferences, workshops. Our goal is to help support women to talk with each other, be in the same location, online or in person. And then a lot of our workshops and our educational platforms is all from startup to moving on and selling your business,
Yeah,
no
that's-
matter what stage.
That's very cool. So with that mompreneur journey, do you find your network is organically growing, or do you find you have to do some marketing to build that?
We're just starting. I have to say, we're 7 years in. I'd say we started marketing this year.
Right on.
It's all been organic, word of mouth. Moms talk, right?
Yeah.
Women like to talk.
Sure.
So for us, we've been really lucky that women have come in. It's a very heart-centered organization.
Right.
We all care about each other and want to support one another.
Well, one of the we had a session yesterday with the startup communities, and one of the things we talked about is getting the communities to start to connect with other organizations,
Yes.
such as yours. So does Mompreneurs, do you connect with other organizations?
Yes. Honestly, probably the first 2 years, that was the biggest part of our growth, was partnering with other organizations who also had a group and bringing like-minded women together. There's no reason for competition if
Right.
we can collaborate, right?
Yeah, well, it's collaboration is the deal for
Yes.
sure. So, Caroline, how are you using the International Black Economic Forum to create change makers and influencers within the Black community?
We're trying to do it different ways. Like she said, we're doing. Hello?
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're doing event as well to spark and to help people, in their entrepreneurship journey. But mostly we're trying to connect them with Black successful business entrepreneur. Let them be here in Canada or from elsewhere. We have a lot of Black entrepreneurs, successful Black entrepreneurs from the States that are coming in Montreal to help, to just connect and help them attain their goals. So I'm sorry for the English, but
She does a great job with her English. It's his third language, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
So-
She does a great job.
thank you. But and the other thing that we are doing to foster entrepreneurship, we're working a lot to foster entrepreneurship within the Black community.
Yes.
And we are working very much as well so that we can come up with solutions that will benefit not only entrepreneurs as individuals, but the collectivities as well. So that's the main thing about the forum itself.
Very cool. Well, I know how Jonathan has a revenue model, created it with his company, and I'm all about you're in business to make money. Even nonprofits have to make money along the way. So Maria and Caroline, how do you two create revenue for your associations?
We sell.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Caroline.
I mean,
Put it up. Yeah.
when we're doing the events, we sell space. We sell tickets like
Yeah.
everybody else, and then fundings like everybody else. So.
So there's not a membership fee to be
No,
associated
not
with
yet. But
Not
we
yet.
have something that is coming. We have two things that are coming this November that will change that
Right.
maybe. So
Cool. Awesome. And what about you, Maria? How do you make money?
That's probably the hardest part with any business, really, is to build that model so that you're, especially with a heart-centered organization like ours, we do have a membership fee, but it is open for free access. So we've divided it so that those who are willing to invest and are ready for us to promote them and support them in extra ways, there's an investment piece, but really a lot of it is our sponsors.
Right.
So, we work with companies like UPS year-long for years at a time to help us support our entrepreneurs, and that's really where the bulk of our revenue comes from.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Okay, so well, look, entrepreneurship can be a pretty lonely road, and you've all got programs that you're connected with. How do you kind of weave in the connection? the actual networking, the ability to hang out and have drinks, if we want to call that, with your group, because it's great to have structure, but to me, part of the fun of being an entrepreneur is the non-structure. So how do you guys, and Jonathan, we'll start with you, how do you engage your community in other things besides your programs?
Sure. So after every single one of our sessions, we basically force people to go out and get drinks afterwards. Now, we work in a lot of countries where that's not appropriate.
And how do you force them?
We don't, I mean, we just know for a fact that, you can have this very kind of interactive mentor entrepreneur environment where they're giving feedback, but really a lot of those relationships are created in a much more social setting, right? So maybe not drinks, coffee, whatever you want to call it.
Social.
But yeah, we push that as much as possible, and, in addition to just the learning events, it's a lot of social things, like meet at a bar, meet at a restaurant. You can only put so much structure around relationship building.
Right on. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's very cool. So even that fundamental, even though you're doing global, still stays consistent amongst your programs.
Yeah, not the drinking part.
There's nothing wrong with that, the way I look at it.
No,
I won't
we
join a
operate
group.
in a lot of countries, so.
Very cool. Caroline, how do you socialize your network?
Mainly the people that work with us, they are open to just mingle with whoever. So even though the CISO guy we can call him. So it's part of the, comment on dit ça? ADN?
Yes.
ADN, how you say ADN?
That works?
No.
No?
DNA, thank you. It's part of the DNA of the organization that if we're working with us, you must be open to just connect with whoever wants to reach out to you.
Right.
So that's part of it. And people, so far, they've been answering positively. So.
Okay, cool. Love it. Maria?
For us, we started very local in a small community, meeting with women one-on-one. And as we started to grow, we realized not everybody, as much as we all want to leave our small little bubble of entrepreneurship, not everybody can get out all the time. So we're trying really hard to build more of an online platform where people can connect and not feel isolated.
Yeah, that's an interesting question because, or an interesting answer, because when I see a lot of these online forums having Facebook groups and so on, it's usually about 10% of the membership that engages, and the other ones are passive or they're not there. So how do you actually make the magic happen? Can you dive in a little bit on that?
You take care of that 10%.
Yes.
And it will grow, right?
That's
you
interesting.
love them and you love them hard.
Yeah.
That's about it.
And do you two do the same sort of thing?
Yeah, it's just those networks take work, right? You can't just put up like a Slack group and then expect it to germinate or something like that. I mean, somebody has to be in there from the beginning and power your power users, and then it'll grow from there.
Same thing for you?
Same thing for me. We were having this discussion this morning as we were coming.
Yes.
How to invest more time.
Yeah, sure. And so do you designate somebody to do it? That's how it happens. You got to designate. I see so many companies, they say, oh, you got a Facebook account. You can be the social media coordinator for our company. Now, you got to be engaged. You got to be the type of person that wants to contribute. So I appreciate that answer. Okay, so putting your entrepreneur hat on, because each one of you is an entrepreneur, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned along the way as you've grown your network, and what can entrepreneurs that are in the audience right now learn from that? So, Caroline, we're going to start with you. So, you want me to repeat the question? You got it?
No, I got it.
I got it.
As an entrepreneur, the thing that I know for sure works for me is that I have to keep pushing and asking. So if I want something, just go to the person that I need something from and just ask. And usually people will answer positively. So just ask.
Very cool. Maria?
It matches with what Kelly was talking about before, which is really just being true to yourself, stick with your core values, know what they are, and if you're in the right field for the right purposes, people really will fall in line with you, and it'll work.
All right, Jonathan, it's your
Yeah,
lesson.
so can I say two things?
Yes, sir, you can.
Okay.
You're a visitor today, absolutely.
So, number one, I would say that you have to get out there, right? It sounds really simple, but most successful entrepreneurs will attribute, at least humble entrepreneurs, will attribute a lot of their success to luck, right? There's always a little bit of a luck component, and the way that you, quote unquote, make your own luck is by going to events, by just getting out there, finding local meetup groups in your space, and just meeting as many people as possible, because one of those people will be the person that either becomes a partner or that says, oh, my friend is doing something similar, and creates that connection.
Right on.
Right? So that's incredibly important. And now I forgot the second one.
I got to find the. Well, I'm actually going to participate in this. You know, I get asked that question every now and then, and when I teach entrepreneurs, I ask them the question. I say, what's the number one thing you need to do in order to be successful in your business? And no one has ever got the answer. And this answer, by the way, came from Richard Branson. He's the one that said this answer. So he said the number one thing that you need to do to have your business be successful is not cash flow, it's not mindset or anything like that. He said your health. You got to look after your health. And, you know, entrepreneurs are known for suffering with depression, high anxiety, burnout, those sorts of things. I've been through it myself. I've been in bed for 3 months. It's a terrible journey to go through, but it's a lesson learned. Now I look after my health, and I'm able to do things like this. So Startup Canada, you're here from San Francisco. You folks are here from afar. What's the power you're seeing with Startup Canada? And I want to start with you, Jonathan, because you are a visitor here. This is your first time connecting with this group. What have you learned about Startup Canada that you think is so freaking cool that people here will walk away and say, that's why I want to be associated with Startup Canada?
Well, I mean, everybody here is super passionate. Just watching Victoria speak last night to everybody, you know, I've been to a lot of these kind of community startup events, and I haven't seen that much passion in most of the places that I've gone.
That's cool.
And I think Canada in general really makes me excited. Number one, just because the companies coming out of our programs have been incredible. But number two, you know, there's some weird stuff happening down south where I'm from, which you probably have noticed. And I think there's
no probably there, by the way.
I think there's a lot smarter stuff that's going on up here. So I think that's going to become a bigger opportunity, not only in immigrants from around the world that are highly talented, you know, coming a little bit further north and coming down to us, but also even people from the U.S. starting to immigrate.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, we sure appreciate you coming up and visiting us. And he did a great session yesterday at the Startup Communities group, and you're just doing amazing work. Really impressive. So, Caroline, we're going to start with you. What are you seeing that's so freaking cool about Startup Canada?
For me, it's you guys are bees. You know, like
we're bees.
Yeah,
yes.
you're bees.
Yes.
You know, and I like that. You're always moving, and something is always going on. Something positive is always going on. And one of the things that I like a lot about Victoria, of course, and she listened. You know, like last year we talked about something. As I was doing the forum, the first edition, I wanted to invite her, but I wanted her. You know, the black component was really important for me.
Of course.
So we addressed that. And since then, I've seen her we're not talking every day about it, but every time I see that she's doing not only the effort, but she listens and she's trying to make the change. So I like that a lot.
Yeah,
you know?
and what she's done, by the way, with that is that her entire team are like that also.
Yeah.
You know, they really, every touch point
True.
within this organization makes you feel like you are the one. You are
True.
special, and that's great leadership. So I appreciate you saying that. Maria, what's so freaking cool about Startup Canada to you?
I've been following Victoria and Startup Canada since everything started, and truly it's walking the talk with this organization. And the fact that so many volunteers are associated, that shows you the true passion that people have for entrepreneurship.
Yes.
They want to be here. They're not paid to be here.
Yes.
They want to be here to help others, and that is a very rare thing, I find. It's powerful.
Yeah,
it's extremely
very powerful. Is, you know, I've seen the journey. As I said in my intro remarks, I was a founding board member of Startup Canada when it really was a volunteer group of 6 people. And to see the journey and see this, it's absolutely magical. But it's all driven about looking after entrepreneurs. There's not a selfish bone in anything that's happening here except to serve entrepreneurs. And, you know, we met the Prime Minister yesterday, and he knows about Startup Canada and the power that's going on because of that. So, so very, 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 very awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is your panel, and I would recommend each one of you hang out with these rock stars and learn from them. We're going to go on to the next panel in 5 minutes. No? I'm getting a nod. I'm getting a no from Anastasia. Okay, cool. So we get another panel coming up in about 5 minutes. Thank you very much to each and every one of you for being. So the next session is going to be leveraging your community to start and scale. The flagship program of Startup Canada is the Startup Communities model. And so we're going to be starting that very soon with our amazing, amazing panel.
To 3,000, you need to be able to organize managerial accountabilities and responsibilities, create new branches and sections, and get rid of ones that aren't needed. It's something that we're too slow at. And of course, the main thing is talent, is go and find and grow and retain talent. And if you find people that have creativity and energy and will challenge the status quo, you will get better results than if you hire a bunch of risk-averse, cautious, I need a manual and a rule book people. Not easy to spot those, frankly. So selection tools, how you hire, who you choose to put in your leadership programs and your development and your training, who you promote into positions of greater responsibility. If you select for risk-taking and creativity, you'll get better results over time. And again, easier said than done. So it's more the attributes of entrepreneurship applied to an institution or a set of institutions that we expect to be there 150 years from now. And it's a challenge, but one which I think a lot of my colleagues find a very exciting one. This is a very, very, very different public service than the one I joined as a university graduate in 1981. Thanks for the reminder. That was before Al Gore invented the internet. It was before mobile devices. It was before laptops and networks. But guess what? We were working on trade issues, tax issues, competitiveness issues, supply management. There's a continuity of the kinds of challenges. Every government you go out and choose is going to worry about where will wealth and growth and jobs and economic opportunity come from, and how are you adapting to a changing environment. How are we going to distribute and spread those wealth and opportunity across Canadians so that no Canadians are left out? And how will Canada, only 2% of the world economy and population, influence global issues, whether it's climate change or peace or security or whatever? And how are we going to sort out those roles and responsibilities between federal governments, territorial governments, provincial governments, and now increasingly Indigenous governments? Those are the classic Canadian issues that I worked on 35 years ago, and my successors will work on 35 years from now. But just because there's continuity doesn't mean that you can't change and adapt. I would just say one thing for the business people in the room is that government may look kind of alien, and it's just that, annoying CRA or tax rule or whatever. But Google the Edelman Trust Barometer, which is a cross 20 or 30 countries survey of how people feel about their institutions. Canada has the highest trust in its private sector businesses of the 20 countries in the survey. They're seen as trustworthy, which helps grow your business. And one of the reasons that Canadians trust their private sectors is there is an effect from the rules are fair. We don't have corruption and nepotism in the way that they're regulated. There isn't favoritism of the kind that you'd see in some other countries in the world. A strong public sector makes for a strong private sector and vice versa. So all of the opportunities to talk across silos and boundaries are a Canadian asset. One of the reasons we will do very, very well in the 21st century is in Canada, we are compact enough that a video conference can put people from private sector, government, NGOs, unions, and communities. Something which is difficult to do in Germany or Britain or the United States. Our scale as a country is just about right to be adaptive. We can do tax reform, we can do pension reform, we can do new trade agreements, we can do things which in other countries are frankly in a state of gridlock and unable to take decisions. That's a Canadian advantage which will make us all more prosperous and safe in the years ahead.
Well, thank you very much. And full disclosure to the audience, I am a former public servant. I can't remember when I first came across Michael, whether it was at finance or in
Back
PCO.
in the 20th century.
Yeah. I started when there were no computers on Parliament Hill or in government offices. So that says a little something. Are we getting feedback? Michael, thank you for those opening remarks. And you've hit on quite a few of the points that I was hoping some of our questions that have come from our startup community would draw out. But let me just go back to something you said, and it might be about people. But can you tell me what's the real value between the entrepreneur and the government collaboration? Where do you see that from a government perspective? What does government get out of that collaboration?
Well, the most obvious point is we are in the business of helping cabinets and parliaments shape laws, policies, and regulations. So you might have noticed there's a bit of a discussion going on in the country around tax rules around private corporations. There's constant challenges to intellectual property laws. We're involved in international treaty negotiations on copyright and IP protection. It's a big part of NAFTA, is the small business chapter of NAFTA. I mean, I could go around, like, all of the conditions within which the ecosystem of small, medium, and big businesses operate is affected. And the better we understand that environment, to walk in the shoes of the other, so to speak, helps, right? And hopefully it works in the other direction as well, that when you understand some of the other constraints and issues and challenges that this also has to work for big scale firms, or we're involved in a trade table and this isn't something we can do in Canada unilaterally because it would violate our international. So the more you understand the government environment, the more we understand the environment in which people are trying to create firms and jobs. It can only help. You'll reduce the chances of unintended consequences, and you will spot those ideas and get them to scale better. Government has to increase what Dominic Barton calls its metabolic rate. It has to work at a much faster speed than 20 years ago. You don't have 3 years to do a leisurely consultation and then put out a discussion paper and then take it to Parliament and then maybe take 2 years to pass the law. The cycle time for government is faster and faster, just as it is for the private sector.
So that's probably one of the things that you see in the entrepreneurial community in the private sector, this speed. So what other things, kind of introspective things that you would like to see in the public service and in public servants bring to your discussions that you see happening in the entrepreneurial community? What can we learn from the way entrepreneurs operate that can help government? Speed is clearly one thing, but is there anything else that you see in the entrepreneurial community that you would love to see in your own public servants?
I think how you spot and develop talent, I mean, who you hire, who you recruit, who you promote, who you fire, those are all, those are the most important decisions you ever make as a manager. So I think HR practices would be something that we'd be very interested in. When you work in industries and sectors where the knowledge you brought in on your first day is likely to be obsolete pretty quickly, how do you create learning ecosystems for renewal of that kind of, human capital, to use the economist phrase? There are probably smarter, better ways to build learning systems and learning ecosystems. We can bring those to to the public sector. I can't coast off my master's degree from 1981. You have to learn and grow and develop. So that that kind of thing. All of the things I talked about, we can do some version of a transplant into our environment.
Great, thank you. So government has traditionally been risk averse, and there are some legitimate reasons for that modus operandi, but our entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurial community in Canada and elsewhere really does face risk every day. And as technology changes and it continues to evolve rapidly, can government keep pace?
Well, we have to. I mean, there's no choice, or we will become a more dangerous and poorer country. So, I mean, there's no option. It's not that people in the public sector don't face risk. Both our elected people run existential risk of losing their jobs at the next election, and we share feedback loops which are very strong. And I want to be very clear, this makes us better. This is continuous improvement, and this is not a complaint. But when you have about 15 officers of Parliament working full-time telling you what you could have done differently or better in hindsight, when you have parliamentary committees, when you have question period every single day, when you have the media, when you have stakeholders and lobbies and organizations constantly giving you feedback, usually skewed to what you did wrong or what you could have done better, it can inculcate a kind of, axis of risk aversion to say, well, I don't want to be the guy beaten up in the Ottawa Citizen or the person who's beaten up at a parliamentary committee. So you know what? I kind of kick that decision down the road, or I'll kick it upstairs to my boss. So, it's easier said than done to, say, well, go and take a risk. Because in a private sector environment, the firm may fail, or you may write off an IT project, or you say, well, that app didn't work, we'll try another app. When an app doesn't work in the government environment, you hear about it in question period, right? So, and how could you possibly spend money on a system that you ended up abandoning? That's a terrible failure. Fire everybody. In the private sector, that might be a reasonable business decision, right? So, it is a challenge to get people to experiment, try new things, when a lot of the feedback loops are sort of skewed to sort of negative feedback. We try to counterbalance that. That's one of the reasons I'm here today, and one of my bully pulpit roles is to encourage people to speak up, and we try to create mechanisms for people to speak up and say, well, we could do this differently, or we could do this better. But we will never be first adopters of a new thing. Like, that just doesn't work in a public sector environment. What we can be is spot something that's working well in the private or NGO environment and say, we should be doing some version of what they're doing. And that is happening. So you can go look on my website and my report. There's lots of successes. You've all downloaded the Parks Canada app this year, right? It's on your phones. You've all got the Border app that CBSA put out this year. Like, there's a lot of things in the service area moving to smartphones and app-based applications, and we have to do it in 2 official languages, fully accessible to Canadians with disability. So there are successes, but there isn't a lot of a positive feedback loop to say, job well done, that's great. So.
Okay, our time is running short, but I've had the great pleasure to be with the Startup Canada gang for the last couple of days, and I'd be remiss if I was up here with the Clerk of the Privy Council and didn't ask him about procurement. So we don't have a lot of time, Michael, so maybe just a short answer to what is the government doing to ensure that our wonderful entrepreneurs and their businesses and business models and ideas can get into that federal government procurement process?
Yeah, that's something that Minister Qualtrough and her people are working on. We're under enormous pressure from a number of areas. One is we have international obligations and treaties, so you have to have national treatment and various obligations. We're in a very difficult process dealing with the Americans who want to have Buy America provisions, and we've had to, we're playing whack-a-mole with protectionism in other countries. I think we want to always be able to demonstrate best value for money and how you measure that. A cabinet which comes from every part of the country wants to be sure that there's equal access from people in every province and territory, and you don't have selection bias to certain parts of the country. It's tough. The major problem that I see we have to tackle is pace. You just cannot take long periods of time. What we're trying to do is shift, and it's not a world I understand in great depth, is get away from models where you're very detailed about the specifications of, this is what we need, can you build it, to this is the problem we have, do you have something that might work? We need portable devices for detection of the presence of cannabis in people's bloodstreams. Do you think you have something? We actually, sadly, we need portable devices to pick up the presence of fentanyl in a hotel room. Do you have something? So we're moving more to prizes and challenges, and here's a problem, can you help us solve it? To do that in a way where at the end of the day you don't get sued because somebody is grumpy because they didn't get the contract, and we are sued a lot by the losers in competitions, that leads to risk aversion. One of the reasons that people become risk averse is litigation. There are tens of thousands of lawsuits against the government. And every decision you make is contested. Every regulation is contested. Every procurement decision is contested. Every law is contested. So you check with the lawyers before you do a lot of things, and that adds time and it adds caution to the processes. But there's a big difference between like I need an app that will do the following things, or I need a warship. So it'll really depend on the scale of the procurement and what you're buying. Most of what we do is actually services. It's not goods and widgets and tools and technology. It tends to actually be in the services area.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me give a warm thank you for his time and an insight to the clerk. Clerk, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much to Clerk Wernick, and thank you very much to Jennifer Sloan for hosting the discussion. We have got another talk coming up. Where are you all going?
Talk passionately about why they want to further the agenda of the startup community. And the one thing you have to be wary for are people who are doing it for lead generation for their business. That's what you don't want.
Well, that's actually a very interesting question, and I know, Melanie, I wanted to hear your answer on that, but I'm going to ask you this question instead. I have a belief that you need to look after those that look after you. I have a belief that it's okay to promote my business within the startup community model. So how do you incorporate my belief in a way that still respects that we are all business people, but we don't want it to be seen as a, hey, give me business? How do you manage that balance? Melanie?
For that specific thing, when we do meetups, most people, they'll exchange business cards, they'll identify pain or something that they're looking to fill. That's perfectly acceptable
Right.
to talk about a need that you have. You're not going in there to hard sell someone else. There's no hard sell. It's because then it's almost like a tiered or a pyramid type thing. That's not the environment you want. You want everyone that comes in to, whether it's a meetup group or a mastermind session, to feel comfortable in that they will be returning. It's not selling anything.
No, I'm good. I'm just wondering how much time I got left.
Okay, no,
Because there's some questions I want to ask, and I want to make sure we get enough time to do it.
Sure.
So we got 10 minutes left. Okay, thank you,
Okay,
Edwin.
awesome.
Cool. Okay, so I'm going to get into this question right now because I think it's an important one, and I don't want to run out of time with it.
Okay.
Tell us about the most meaningful, and I want to answer from each one of you, the most meaningful interaction that you've had through being involved with your startup community. So who wants to start with that meaningful, like heartfelt? Maybe it's an entrepreneur that really you connected with. Maybe it was a group of people that you connected with. Maybe it was just, oh my gosh, my city is alive with the talk. So you can talk about that? Melanie, you're diving in. Go for it.
All right, sure. I had a woman come to a branding session. We talked about personal branding. And it was in the middle of an ice storm, so there was very few people that showed up. I think we had about 6 people that showed up, including the facilitator. And because the session was a smaller session, everyone had an opportunity to ask questions, time to spend time with her and ask more questions. And there was a woman that was there that has, she basically had gone through the system, she lost her job, and she had a disability. And because her disability caused so much grief for her to keep meaningful employment, she decided she wanted to do something on her own and to help others that have a disability. That was to walk through a process with her, and then everyone within the team and in the group that had basically signed up joined in. That was incredible. It was extremely powerful for her because she decided, okay, yeah, I'm going to take the step now and help others that have a disability to move forward and not be afraid to step out of that. You know,
Very
you're
cool.
in a nice little cocoon, step out of it.
Right
and
on.
we were there for her as a support system.
Thank
and
you.
She still has that. So
That's
it was awesome.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Jeff?
We had a young entrepreneur come to us who decided that he wanted to re-engineer cable wakeboarding. And he wasn't an engineer. There wasn't a single investor or bank that understood a word he was talking about. And they felt that there was no market for this, that this was a stupid idea, he wasn't qualified to do it. And the one thing that we've seen time and time again, and I have to push this forward every chance I get, the only opinion in business that matters is the markets. And this entrepreneur came from the market. He was number 4 in Canada a few years back. And he told me that the market wants to forward the sport. The market wants to be in the Olympics. And they'll never do that behind a boat. And so he knew what this thing had to be. And so he talked his father into cashing in the retirement savings.
Nice.
And they built a test facility in the backyard, gigantic pond, and started erecting towers and engineering new cable systems. Well, they went to the Orlando Surf and Sea Expo, and as he had predicted that everyone else told him he was crazy, every single pro came like moths to a flame to his booth and said, "What is this?"
Nice.
And he said, "This is the future of our sport. This is a green way of doing this. This is a custom ride. This is the most tension that you will ever be pulled behind." And they said, "Where can we ride that?" "Well, it's in this rural area just outside of Winnipeg. Do you want to come?" They all came.
Wow.
We had
a journey.
food trucks. We had a margarita booth. We had a great time. The community had a great time. But yes, the number 1 rider in the world rode that tech.
Nice.
And
great
that's
story.
how they launched it.
Great story. Yeah, so that's very cool about helping someone who really needed the help get on a global stage and perform their dream. Very cool story. All right, buddy, you're on.
I'll try to make mine fast because I know we're on a time crunch.
Thank you.
But mine's the other side. So my passion in communities has always been volunteers. And every community leader here, every community leader here is a volunteer. Everyone who's working here, like, they're all volunteers. They're giving up their time because they're so passionate. And it's a thankless job. And I had a volunteer come out to Startup Calgary shortly after I started there, saying, like, I've been in the tech community here. I go to these hackathons. I don't feel welcome as a woman. It's always a bunch of dudes. And she said, after you took over, I kind of watched a little bit and
That's very cool.
yeah, and thought I would try it again. And she said, I'm not going to lie to you. And this was a fail on my part because I didn't know. She's like, I'm not going to lie. I went and it was the same thing. I thought that, you know, a woman being a leader, it would be different. And that really, really affected me. I was like, this has got to change. Like, we talk about inclusivity, we talk about accessibility. It's a big deal. You want to make sure when women come to events or underserved or underrepresented populations come out to events, they feel comfortable. They feel like they're accepted. So we worked with each of the hack nights to really talk this out and figure out what we could do to build a more inclusive community. 6 months later, she came back to me and said, I tried it again. Because I talked to her, I said, I think you'll find it's different. And she was like, everyone was so nice. They came up and welcomed me. They weren't scared to come and approach me. I felt like I was actually welcome for the first time. And it was amazing.
That's brilliant. I appreciate that, telling that story. And the stats actually show that a women entrepreneur will actually probably be more successful than a male entrepreneur. And so we need to make sure that those communities are inviting, and that's what's happening with that group. So very cool. I'll tell you my story. I started Startup Fredericton, and one of the things that I really have enjoyed about the community in Fredericton is that there's an amazing buzz happening around right now. Entrepreneurs are now being brought up as heroes in the community. They're now being recognized as heroes in the community. And that buzz of excitement and high-fiving and, oh my gosh, you're an entrepreneur, that's so cool, is really starting to happen. The culture is shifting from what is an entrepreneur to, wow, that's so cool being an entrepreneur. My goal is to ultimately, instead of the typical bedtime stories, that we all just start telling entrepreneur stories to our kids when we tuck them in the bed at night. So I want to do that. So my last question to each three of you, and I asked it to the other panel too, and you got 30 seconds to answer. What's so freaking cool about Startup Canada to you? And we're going to go down the line here. Jeff, what's so freaking cool about being associated?
Numbers and diversity.
Right on.
Diversity and numbers, key to innovation, key to problem solving, and key to the next 100 amazing companies.
Very cool. Melanie?
Well, for me, it's connecting everyone. It's about inclusivity.
Right, look around,
Seriously,
right?
I mean, if you look at it before, you wouldn't see First Nations, you wouldn't see minorities, and now you can see everyone. And we actually all have an access to government through Startup Canada. That's the most freaking coolest thing ever.
Very cool. Buddy?
For me, always the community leaders. I love them all. They work so hard. And before Startup Canada, we all worked separately across the nation. Now we're all able to come together, and it's our support network. I love them all.
So for me, it's an example of this. These 5 people right here, I've met through Startup Canada. I can pick up the phone anytime, anywhere, and reach out to any one of them, and they're going to come back to me because I'm part of this community. And we've created friendships, we've created business opportunities with each other. So I recommend get connected to a startup community. If you don't have one, let us help you start that community. It's really, really easy to do. And great panel, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you.
Hug from Jeff. Great job, buddy. Thank you, everybody. So we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we're going to be back with the next session. Thank you very much. It's this guy. It's this guy. Not yet, he says. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Scale Up stage. We're going to be talking scale ups right now, if it's appropriate. But before we do that, I'm going to invite Mr. Paul Gaspar up on stage. Paul is the man with UPS making things happen with small business across the country. Has always been an amazing sponsor, business partner, associate, and contributor to the startup communities and to Startup Canada. Paul, thank you for all your work. And you're doing a draw for a MasterCard gift certificate. So come on up, my friend.
Thank you, Rivers. How's everyone doing? Oh, come on. How are we doing? There we go. Great. So if you're not aware, at our booth, which is right here, you've got an opportunity not just to get some information, but to get a passport. And if you fill it out and get all the stamps at all the different regions around the world and enter it into a draw, we're going to be drawing not just for 5 $100 MasterCards throughout the day, but at the end of the day, we're actually going to be giving out an iPad as well too. So if you haven't done that, make sure you do that before the end of the day. That being said, our very first winner, hopefully they're close by, is Liliana, and I'm going to hopefully get the right name, Montoya from Natural Bliss Inc. Here? Oh, right there. Look at that. Perfect. We got our winner.
Come on up, Liliana.
Perfect. There you go. Congratulations. There's also a package car in here, but I don't think you put a lot of packages in it. You put a little thing for you to have as well too. All right. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go.
All right. Thank you very much.
Perfect. All right.
Thanks,
Rick.
guys.
All right, thank you.
Congratulations. Oh, that's nice. You were here, Liliana, to get there. Okay, we're going to be talking about scale-ups now, and we've got an amazing group of people here, and we're going on first-name basis. So we've got Angela, who is the Director of Strategic Growth for Communitech. If you don't know about Communitech, an amazing organization based out of Toronto, but doing stuff nationally, of course. Angela, wave your hand. There she is. And we've got Chris, who's the Senior Manager of Build in Canada Innovation. Chris is pitch hitting, so thank you, Chris, for being here today. I'm sure you're much better than Greg anyway, so that's going to be good. We got Megan. Megan is from Halifax. Anybody ever been to the city of Halifax? Epic city, isn't it? Megan is with Volta Labs. They are doing amazing work with entrepreneurs as a incubator, but also accelerator programs within the city and beyond. And we have Mr. Peter Statsny. Peter is with the Community Economic Development and Employability Corporation. So we're going to be talking about scale-ups. Welcome to each one of you. And first of all, the first question I have on my script is for Angela and Megan. How does an entrepreneur know when it's right time to transform their idea into a business and then to scale? So how do you know? I mean, do you know, or you just keep going? Angela, you want to take that first?
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yep,
Okay.
good. And that's good. Can you speak? Just put it really close.
Sure.
Okay?
So I would say there's a couple of key indicators that we look for when we're trying to qualify our companies to stage gate them for scaling. The first would be your customer profile, your customer persona. Do you know them inside and out? Do you know them intimately? Do you have non-affiliated customers? So you've exhausted your network. Do you have people outside that network that are starting to pay for your services? Those things, are really critical when we start to look at scaling. And are you ready to start hiring sales folks? Are you ready to start implementing a sales process within your organization? So those indicators are kind of the first touch points that we use to start to qualify a scaling firm.
Very cool. Megan?
Yeah, I definitely. Can you guys hear me? Is it?
Yeah, get it close. It's noisy. There you go. We got you now.
I definitely agree with Angela, and I actually approached some of our entrepreneurs who have successfully scaled for this panel to kind of get their thoughts. And they all echoed the same thing. It had to do with their customers. So when they knew they had a really solid product and their customers were actually referring other people to their business, and they realized they didn't have the capacity to onboard all these customers, so they needed to hire, they needed to scale. So it was sort of when they knew their product was right and the customers were referring them to other people.
Very cool. Okay, we're going to scoot around a bit. I want to know. We're going to talk about Peter's from the province of Quebec, and I want to kind of just ask you this question, Peter. What consumer trends and business culture should entrepreneurs keep in mind when considering starting or expanding into the province of Quebec? Because it is a unique entity, and that's okay.
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, it is. Quebec is an interesting market, as many of you may know. We try to, and I'm from Quebec, we think of ourselves as trendy, but Quebec consumers are very late adopters. So it's really important when you're going to deal with Quebec to make them feel comfortable. You know, they want to think they're trendy, but you need to make them feel comfortable. When you're coming in, make sure that you're speaking their language, which isn't a Quebec English-French thing, but there's a different way to market, as you know. Different markets want to hear different things. So make sure you're not, I don't want to malign any translation company, but make sure you're doing the translation. And if you can, try to partner up with somebody, not necessarily as a partner up, doing it do it in a strategic way. I'll give you an example. Brome Lake Duck, that's famous around the world for selling ducks, could sell them in Japan, could sell them in Paris, couldn't sell them in Quebec. They went out, found some chefs in Quebec, found some Quebec recipes, added maple syrup, added things, started to talk to Quebecers, and they're now on all the shelves in Quebec. So just remember, we are late adopters, and you need to make them feel comfortable when you're coming into Quebec, especially when you're scaling up and you may not be known yet.
Yeah, I really appreciate that point, and it's actually that point can be extended to all of Canada. And when you come to where I'm from, which is the Maritimes, there's a certain cultural piece there that you just got to understand. Calgary, the West, different cultural piece. So I appreciate the specifics about Quebec, but there's a bigger story there about understanding your market. Pretty simple. Just because you do it here doesn't mean it's going to work somewhere else. Chris, I've got a question for you. How can the government of Canada help entrepreneurs bring their innovations to market?
Okay, that's a good question. So there's a number of different ways that the government of Canada can help companies bring their product to market. Our program, the Building Canada Innovation Program, was designed specifically to help companies bring their products, their late-stage R&D products, and bridge the pre-commercial gap. So help bring those products from the from the pre-commercial stage to the commercial market, and it does so by leveraging government procurement. So we're able to make a buy and a purchase, test those innovations out in an operational setting, help companies see how those products work, and then that allows them to get feedback and further bring their product to market.
Very cool. Okay, Angela, talk about mistakes. What are the mistakes that you're seeing that entrepreneurs are doing as they're scaling?
We like to call them opportunities to learn.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I would say, you know, in startup land, you guys probably all know this, you're resource constrained. So from a CEO perspective, there's a million different things you could be spending your time and attention on. From our perspective, the gaps we sometimes see or the way people sometimes misalign, keeping an eye on sales and revenue from a CEO perspective, you know, they often get very product focused and forget to look at the numbers. I would say forgetting to keep that ongoing conversation happening with your customer and client base. That needs to be an evolution. It can't just be, okay, I've got fit and everything's good and now I'm just going to continue on my merry way. You need to continue to talk to them. I would say metrics collection, so figuring out early what you need to measure, what matters to you. So early and often you're measuring and you're making decisions then based on data, right? Not just on gut feel and what feels natural or good to you at this moment. And then the last kind of big rock that we see a lot is challenges around hiring. So hiring too quickly, firing too slowly, you know, that can be a big pain point. The other thing I'll mention is diversity. And I'm talking about diversity in every way you can think of it. So diversity of thought, let's call it. But it's human nature that we're going to try and bring people into our organization that are like us. But that can be to our detriment sometimes. So being really mindful at a really early stage about what kind of culture you want to build. And with every hire that you make, keeping that in mind, I think, is really, really crucial.
That's a great point you mentioned about culture. Megan, I'd like you to kind of extend that a little further. How important do you and Volta focus in on culture as a key strategy for entrepreneurs when they're starting their business, not just scaling their business? Is it a part of what you guys bring to the table?
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's something that when we look at a new company coming in, we really look at the founders that are coming in.
Right.
And get a sense of sort of what they stand for in terms of culture, and really supporting them as they build that out among their team, because culture is critical to retaining employees and retaining customers. It's very crucial from the get-go. So it's something we definitely are working on in terms of building that among the companies we work with.
Yeah, I think it's a forgotten thing a lot with entrepreneurs when they get started. So I appreciate you digging a little deeper in that point. Chris, there's a belief that government, you can't win any opportunity to sell to government if you're a startup or you're scaling. It's saved for the big girls and the big guys. Tell us about the programs that exist today, maybe top 3, that startups and scale-ups can take advantage of in selling to the government of Canada.
So I would recommend everyone, if you're looking to do business with government, start off simple. Go to buyandsell.gc.ca.
Can you slow down on that one? Do that again, because that's important.
Buyandsell.gc.ca.
Cool.
So this is going to be your portal, your entry point to everything that is doing business with government. So there's a ton of resources there available. You can talk with someone. You can go out, learn what programs are available, and have that entry point. There's a number of different tools and resources. Now is really an exciting time for companies in Canada to be accessing the government. There's a lot of new programs coming out. Innovation Solutions Canada is a program that just came out. There's a number in the works that will be coming out in the coming time. And then there's our program, the Building Canada Innovation Program. Our program's really there to be helping companies of all sizes, so small, medium, and large enterprises. 97% of the companies that are participating in our program are small and medium
that's
size.
cool.
So there's hundreds of companies that have come through the program accessing what we do, and we're giving out millions of dollars, not giving out, but we are providing millions of dollars of funding to companies
Panel's over.
every year to be entering, and that's through an open call for proposals. So go out there, look at what's out there, and there is opportunities for these companies. Some of the companies coming through the program have 2, 3, or 4 employees, so it's not something that isn't available to them.
Right, so that thing out there that says it's only for the big companies is totally false.
Yeah, don't be afraid to do business with government. There is opportunities. It might be a little daunting at first, but once you get your foot in the door and once you start seeing what's out there, there is that opportunity to be working with us. And as you'll see at this event, there's a ton of different government players here that are willing to be helping you, and we really do want to be helping get some capital in your pockets and help you bring those products to market.
Very
so
cool.
we can grow the Canadian economy.
So let's go to the other side of government, which are rules and regulations. And Peter, we're going to head back down to Quebec. What are some rules and regulations that we should be aware of going into the province of Quebec to do business?
Okay, well, certainly there's the obvious ones. There's language issues, and it's more than rules and regulations. It's if you want to do business in Quebec and you want to get at the majority of the businesses, 92% of the businesses in Quebec are small businesses. You need to be talking to them, and it goes back to the culture issue. You want to be talking to them in their languages. I think a lot of the rules are similar across the country, so I want to maybe draw attention, especially when we're talking about scaling, in something that I feel is rules and regulations, but it's an opportunity rather than we usually see them as hindrances, is that Canada has just signed a new agreement with Europe, CETA, and that gives us a huge opportunity to scale and partner, because now all our businesses have the opportunity to work with European partners and to be considered that they can go into those markets much, much easier. And why I'm bringing that up for scaling is because you can now deal with people that want to come to Canada, and I'm going to say Quebec, because Quebec has a unique opportunity that even though it's outside of CETA, it kind of falls under rules and regulations, that Africa, which is a huge market and an emerging market, really is dominated by Canadian companies and Quebec companies because of its French nature. So just trying to open some opportunities for scaling. Think of Europe, think of Africa. The rules and regulations we now have just signed in place, thanks to the government, allow us to do that. So maybe a different window on it.
Yeah, I love that you brought into that piece about other markets. So we'll go into the middle again for Angela and Megan. Are you finding that entrepreneurs aren't kind of, oh, I don't want to go outside of Canada, they're scared? Or are you finding, no, they're opening now more to that dialogue, going to Africa and so on? In your experiences with the accelerators and incubators you two are running?
I don't know if it's a matter of fear, but of awareness, maybe.
Right.
So I would say the year before last, our mantra was revenue before investment. And we were really kind of drilling that into people's heads, right? So it makes it a lot easier to get investment if you're generating some revenue. And then last year, what really started to percolate in our minds is the world is your market. So it's great that you have customers in your local market, and it's great that you have customers in Ontario and maybe Quebec. But thinking outside of Canada is kind of imperative. We're not big enough as a country to support the kind of scale that most of us would like. So thinking about your product and what you're building and what's the most natural fit in terms of market for you as a next market is something we're encouraging our companies to do fairly early on in the process.
Cool. Megan?
Yeah, I agree with what Angela said. We really want companies that think globally, especially being Atlantic Canadian companies. I think they have to think bigger earlier, just given location. So we have a lot of companies, they're all technology-based companies, so they can actually be based in Atlantic Canada, but they can have customers in San Francisco and Europe, and a lot of them do. And it's really just letting them know that they can do that, and especially in Atlantic Canada, they can have a global company. So being really mindful of, motivating them to know that that's possible.
Well, one of the things that I'm fortunate to do, I host the Startup Canada podcast show, and I get to speak to some amazing people. And one of my recent guests reminded me is that if we don't go out there, they're still coming here. So one way or another, you're going to compete with them. So it was a really excellent point that they brought up. I got two more questions, and we're going to do a lightning round type of thing here. So one piece of advice that you get to give to this audience and the audience back there on remember this when scaling. What's that one piece of advice? Chris, we'll start with you.
I would say the piece of advice that I see with companies coming through the program is really know your customer. So we have a lot of really innovative products coming through the program, but they're really technical in nature. And people can get caught in the weeds on that technical part because they're building a company from the ground up. Usually the CTO is also the CEO, is also the CFO. And understanding, that you need someone that can articulate what it is you have to the general public, to your customers, and you need to be able to make that business and sales proposition to them. So if you can't do that yourself, make sure that you're surrounding yourself with the people that can do that.
Cool.
So if technology is your strong suit and you need someone that can do the sales portion, don't be afraid to look for someone that can do that, because it's important to know the problems that are out there and that you're solving those problems, but that the people out there know that you're solving those problems.
I'm glad Greg didn't come, man. You're better than Greg. Megan, what's your piece of advice?
I would say set key metrics. A lot of companies shy away from, or they don't think about setting some really strategic key metrics, but then it's a really good way to track and benchmark how you're doing. So whether it's customer churn, revenue, even retention of your employees, just keeping track of some, 4 or 5 things that you're really focused on, and then measuring them just to make sure you are growing properly as you should, I think is really important.
Focus and measure. I love it. Angela?
I'm going to piggyback a little bit on Chris's statement. I would say always learn, always seek advice. To kind of complement what you were saying, complement your own skill set. If you're technically savvy but not business savvy, find that supplementary resource, whether it be a co-founder or, shameless plug here, an organization like Volta or Communitech or even BCIP. We're here to help. Communitech has a program called Communitech Rev. That's a 6-month program just for companies looking to scale. So there are resources out there for you, and I can pretty much guarantee you that whatever challenge you're facing, there's been somebody else that's already been there, done that, and they're probably willing to help you. So leverage that knowledge, get out there, build your network, and ask the questions and continue to learn.
Yeah, a really interesting point about been there, done that. I was at a conference in Halifax one time, and the speaker was from Arizona, and she got up, she says, I'm going to break everybody's bubble here. Someone is already doing what you're doing. And it's this, we get it, I can't tell anybody about my idea, because it's my idea, and I don't want crazy stuff. Peter, what's the one piece of advice, sir?
Remember your culture. Scaling up is great. It's important. We all want to do it. But remember your employees. Remember your customers. Remember your bankers. Remember your production partners. You're changing. They're going to change with you. Make sure to bring them along. Don't lose them along the way. Or if you are, make sure you know why. Keep them informed. They're the ones that got you to where you are. Please don't forget them. Keep using them because your culture is going to change. And that's important to keep that in mind as you go forward.
Right on, thank you. Okay, one more question, 30 seconds each. I've been asking this of every panelist, but I'm a big fan of this organization. What's the coolest thing you like about Startup Canada? So let's start in the middle with Angela.
Okay, so this is my first time at Startup Canada. I'm just really impressed with the energy in the room. I think it's really cool to see all of these people here interested in entrepreneurship and learning from one another. So I'm just impressed that the event is of this scale. I really wasn't expecting this, so well done, Startup Canada.
Yeah, no, cool. Peter? Coolest thing?
I was going to say energy too, so I'm going to go to number 2, which is it's great to see that Startup Canada is as much entrepreneurs as the people in the room.
Yes.
So we're all in the same culture, and it shows.
Right on.
It's fabulous.
That is so cool. Chris?
I would say the average age. So you go to a lot of these tech events and different things, and the age might be a little bit higher. And here you're seeing a whole group of potential, a new tranche of entrepreneurs here that could lead the way for Canada. So I would say just seeing young faces in the audience and potential entrepreneurs that are interested in this type of entrepreneurial spirit and paving the way for the next great businesses in Canada.
Yeah, very cool. All right, Megan, my Atlantic Canada sister, go for it.
I'm going to plug the staff. So
Right
just
on.
in terms of emails, how they're world class, just how responsive, respectful, and just seeing the scale of this event and how everything's so buttoned down and organized, very impressive. So
Very
plug
cool.
to the staff.
You know, that's a very good point. And what I would like everybody in this audience to do before you leave today, find one red shirt that says Startup Canada on it and just say thanks for volunteering, because they are all volunteers and they deserve a high five, and it's really important. You guys were epic, real rock stars, each every one of you. I think it was an awesome scale-up conversation. You guys are going to be around a bit. People want to talk to you afterwards. So thank you very much to each one of you for being on the panel today. Next one up, we're going to be talking about doing business online. That's the next panel. an expert on maximizing your online experience with his experience with UPS and all his customers. Also a great friend of Startup Canada. UPS has been there since day one, continues to be a pillar of why it is that we're able to do what we do. Paul's going to be leading this, this conversation on maximizing your online experience with your customers. Mr. Gaspar, come on up, sir. Everybody welcome him to the stage.
Okay, so before we get started with the presentation, I do want to announce the second winner of the $100 MasterCard. And hopefully that person is here as well too. Again, those of you that didn't hear before, if you come visit us at our booth and you actually take the opportunity to look at all the different areas that we actually operate around the world, take one of these passports, make sure you get your stamps at each one of these locations, fill out your information at the end, throw it into the draw box. You can get a MasterCard, and at the end of the day, we're actually going to be drawing for an iPad as well. So the second winner of the $100 MasterCard is Jing Yang Zhu. Is Jin Yang Zhu here? No? All right, well, we're going to try to continue to announce that later. If Jin Yang Zhu is not around, then we might have to draw again, so hopefully that gets his attention. If you know him, go find him. Okay. All right, everyone's got this gloomy face out there. I need to see some smiles. There we go. We're at a startup event. So I'm going to be taking you over the next 20 minutes with some help with an entrepreneur team on how you can maximize your online experience. But first of all, I want to start off with a couple of facts and make sure that we can sort of level set this situation in our Canadian market. So the first number I want to share with you is 1,143,630. That is the amount of small businesses in Canada, according to Stats Canada, as of December 2015. They haven't released the most recent numbers yet. Large group of startups, many of you sitting here in the audience today. Let me give you another number. 40%. That's the amount of small businesses in Canada that have a website today. 40%. Nowhere near enough, right? In fact, those that do have a website or are considering having a website, they indicate that a third of them believe that they can grow their business because of their website. Half have indicated that they can grow locally, nationally, and globally if they have a website. So if that's the case, why does 60% of small businesses not have a website? Hold your thought on that. Let's talk about technology. It's changed everything we do in our lives. It's changed the way we do business, thanks to the explosion of e-commerce. In fact, there's a stat that indicates that by 2020, e-commerce sales is going to eclipse $3.5 trillion around the world. That being said, one of the things that continues to plague businesses of all sizes, including your large brands that you recognize, is abandonment on shopping carts. People going to the shopping cart, entering an item, and walking away. And that is a problem. In fact, it's 90%. So up to 90% of people that will visit your website will actually put an item onto your shopping cart and then walk away. The good news is there's many tools, many things that you can actually do to help reduce that number. Bring that down to a much more palatable number to help your business so that people are not walking away. So to help me actually talk about some of those things and some of the stats that we have, what I'd like to do at this point is welcome onto stage Lori and Kristen from Pink Soapworks. Oh, that was weak, people. That was weak. Lori and Kristen. There we go. All right. Thanks, Lori. Thanks, Kristen, for doing this. So let's start off with the first question, which is the obvious one. Tell us a little bit about yourselves and about the business.
Is our microphone on? Yes,
Yep.
it is. All right. Kristen and I have been friends for 15 years. We worked together in a full-time job, and our ideas lightened up one day. We have an all-natural bath and body company that we make soaps, bath bombs, lip balms,
Men's
everything to
products.
spoil yourself with.
Yeah.
Perfect. Excellent. So, obviously, when we talked and we decided to have these great entrepreneurs to support us, and we're talking about increasing the online experience, I had the opportunity to go on their website, surf around, try to understand how it's built, what they're trying to do, trying to interpret that, and understand that a little bit. So, my first question before we dive into everything else, when I was surfing, I came across this cute little guy on your website. So, can you explain that a little bit more for us?
So one of the key parts of our business is that we have a goat farm. So we hand milk our goats at home and put that into our soaps. So that's one of our key ingredients. So that also helps our business promote sustainability, local availability, and the importance of knowing where our product was sourced from.
Okay, perfect. So this might sound like an obvious question, but you'd be surprised because websites can be developed for many different reasons. People might just want to push a message out with a blog. Most of us here trying to start up a business, it could be because we're trying to do sales. It could be just product information. So in your case, what was the main purpose behind developing your website?
We wanted to drink wine and stress ourselves out a little more. The point was to provide extra information to our customers. We make a product that you can't smell, you can't touch, and by having that information available, it allows our customers to see more in depth of the work, the effort, the research that we've put into what we put into our product.
Okay. Very good. So you've got a website. Great. I had an opportunity to look at it. Is there any other type of social media that you help support your actual business?
Facebook and Instagram are very big for us. We use that not only to use it as a platform to introduce new products, but we also feel it's very important that our customers understand who we are, what our lives entail, sort of a behind-the-scenes look at things. It allows people to become more personable with us. And it also allows us the opportunity to interact and mingle with other entrepreneurs and small business folk like ourselves, especially women in the local area. And it's not just restricted to bath and body people. It's other people that we are mingling with, supporting with, and communicating with in our area of forte.
So that's critical, and it's definitely a takeaway. So our study has shown that people that actually are looking at retailers' websites and trying to research their product, 65% of them also follow them on Facebook. So if you don't have a Facebook presence, you should, because they're going to go there, 65% of them, and look at that. In fact, the second most popular was Instagram, so you got both of them, and that was at 37%, which is also important. So let's talk now about the areas that you focused on your website. So you've developed it, you want sales. What did you focus most of your time on? Was it product information?
Product information for sure, as well just our image, our pictures, ensuring that it represented us and who we are. Also, just the little extras of the descriptions on Lori and myself and how the business started and what we're doing to grow and where you can access us and the shows that we're available at, where we do consignment, just so that it's accessible and convenient for everyone.
So this wasn't planned, but actually is a perfect segue for the next slide. So the study that we did and we do annually, which is the Pulse of the Online Shipper or Shopper, it actually gave us some key trends. One of the first trends was online research. So 80% of people that go onto a website, they're looking to research and understand the product. So if your information on your website doesn't have a lot of details and it's not fully describing your product in detail, you're losing some interest from some people right there. So the fact that you focus a lot of that time on making sure that the product is explained and understood is key. The second thing, which we still come across a lot, and that is scalability. Who here has bought something online with their phone? I have. Right. So have you bought that item online if the website wasn't scalable, where you're trying to actually go to the shopping cart and the product and you can't because it's actually made for an actual website, not for a smartphone? So if your website is not scalable, that is a problem and you're losing a lot of people. You got to make sure that you work with your developer or whoever it is that's helping with your website to make sure that that experience is there. Half of smartphone users have indicated that they've bought an item online. Half. To the point that now 1 in 5 online sales happens with a smartphone. So, and that's going to continue to grow. So if you're not scalable, you got to make sure you are. Are you scalable?
We sure are.
Perfect. What made you do that? Was it just part of the platform, or was that thought process you had?
2 reasons. Significant others in our lives are IT folks. So, of course, they preach that, but they've also allowed us to have at home tablets, cell phones, PCs, Macs. We have kids, so whatever device is handy, that's the one you grab. So we understand the frustration that if you're trying to order something and it's not scalable on that device, you're going to leave it be. So that's a personal experience for us that we have a preference that it look good on every platform that you're using.
If it frustrates us, it's going to frustrate our customers.
Absolutely. Good point. So the other thing that we also learned from our study was the key differentiating factors that online shoppers are looking at. And there's 4 main buckets. That is the price of your actual product and how that compares to competitors or other options that they might have. Shipping fees, right? We've all heard of free shipping. Well, let me go on a small little tangent right now because I work for a courier company. Free shipping doesn't exist. Somebody is paying for it. I have personally bought a light on Costco online that cost me $57.99. 2 weeks later, I walked into my local Costco, exact same product, exact same SKU on their shelf for $39.99. Someone is paying for shipping, but there's ways around how to mask that and how to communicate that to your customers to address what is important to them as a differentiating factor. Product information, which we touched on and is really key, and then your reputation. You got to be making sure that, especially if you're on other social media, you're monitoring and understanding your customers and not be combative with your customers, but sympathetic with your customers and working with them, and that's a key element as well too. Now, I would need another 30 minutes just to dive into all of these, so we don't have time for that. But by all means, if you got questions in this area, come and visit us at our booth. We'll be more than glad to talk to you about it. And in about a month's time, the study will actually be on our website. You can search for it and pull down all the details as well. But I wanted to just see if there's any additional comments you want to add specifically for that.
Just regarding the price, Pink Soap Works, when we started our business, the whole point was to provide a product that we were comfortable paying for. So as part of our product description is just explaining why things are the price that they are, the work that goes behind the product. And yeah, exactly, the reputation I think is key, absolutely key for us, that our customers we're available to our customers at all times, and that we keep just a pleasant, friendly reputation with the public, and offering additional things to our customers as well, just for repeat business. So I think reputation is absolutely the most important.
It's the customer experience, right? Customer experience, perfect. So let's move over to the shopping cart. And these are some of the key elements that if you don't have on your shopping cart today, you're probably seeing more abandonment rates than you need from your actual business. And we'll just look at some of these quickly, but everything from a shopping cart information for later. Don't make a customer go to your site and create an ID if they want to buy from you once. If they want to create an ID and actually be a long-time customer, that's fine. But some people want to buy from you once and move on. Make it easier for them. Make sure that if you actually put an item into their shopping cart, that with your cookies that you're following them, and you can actually, if I come back to the site, it's still there, which is the case with Pink Soap Works, because I tried that, went away, came back, and it was still there. So make that experience easier for your customer. Multiple payment options. If you're Walmart, if you're Amazon, if you're Microsoft, you're probably comfortable putting your Visa into that platform because you're thinking your security's on their site's probably okay. But if you're going to a smaller business and you really like what they're offering because it's unique, are you going to be second guessing putting your credit card information there, not sure how safe their website is? You're going to lose 53% of the people if you don't have multiple payment options. Options like PayPal and Apple Pay, because they feel much more comfortable with that when they're dealing with a smaller business. Accurate time in transit, multiple service options, even including alternate delivery locations. A year ago, 34% of the people that were surveyed indicated that when they actually ship something, they want to be able to ship it to an alternate location, either when they ship or after it's shipped. Could be changing from their home to their office, office to home, or another alternate location altogether. That number's gone from 34% to 43%, and it's going to continue to grow. So work with your carriers, your providers, to make sure that they have that option and that's built in. And in fact, that's not, there's a twist to that has actually been done with Pink Soapworks, because they were providing customers the shipping option, but you got 2 locations they could come and pick up.
Yes.
And what was happening in that scenario?
So what we've done on our website is you can choose to have it shipped and pay for shipping, or we also have an alternate drop-down tab for cash on delivery. So Kristen and I live in completely opposite ends of the city, so people can select that and either pick up from either one of those locations, or quite often we're very flexible and we'll meet people in the middle or close to where it's convenient to provide their product.
And that's worked to our benefit as well, because allowing people to meet us in person gives them the opportunity to ask questions, and it also provides us more potential sales. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, no, that's great, perfect. And then track your orders. If you buy from a company like an Amazon and you actually get the email for you tracking the package, and you click on that, where do you think that goes back to? To the courier site? To track your package? I see some people nodding yes, some say no. It doesn't go back to the courier site. By all means, if you want to actually allow a customer to hit tracking and actually have the customer come back to our site, we will support your customer and give them all the information they need on their package. But they're your customer. Why are you sending them to us? There's tools today that you can actually provide that information, have them come back to your site, and when they're back on your site, like Amazon, the other large players do, sell to them, talk to them. You can actually say, hey, Paul, here's the tracking information. By the way, those shoes you bought, it also comes in brown, and I'll give you 20% off. Those are things you can do to actually try to work and gain that customer back. Make sure you've got returns. 62% of the people surveyed will actually walk away from your website if they don't understand what your return policy is. 62%. And it could be that I don't do returns. But people want to understand that, and they want to understand that up front. And if they don't see that, 62% are saying, you know what, I've had enough, I'm going elsewhere. So these are all things that you can learn, plus many more, to help reduce that abandonment rate. And I got to stop, so I want to take to the last slide real quickly and then get some closing comments. After sales, you got to make sure that you do that. I would challenge you to actually think about the lifetime value of your customer sales, not the transactional value. You got to make sure that you're treating your customer well through the entire process, because if you can turn your customers into repeat customers, well, that's great, because they're the most profitable customers for you. And if you can really support them and turn them into advocates, that's gold. Because now you got people talking about your business to other people. So treat them well, and after sales is when you can do that. By giving them promotions and coupons, by thanking them through shipping. In fact, do we not do that? Well, do you not provide handwritten messages in your shipping?
We do. We're make an effort to stay small scale enough that we provide a handwritten note. Thank you for your purchase and your support. And quite often we'll toss a free goodie in there as well to entice them to share it with their friends, and a couple business cards. So,
who wouldn't like to receive an order that they're expecting, to open it up and see a personal note, a little thank you, a discount? I mean, who wouldn't? I know I would love that. So why not do that, implement that with your business? Because again, they bought from you once, they probably like it, treat them well, they're going to come back. So we got to get off the stage, but I wanted to make sure that I just gave them any final comments. So, Lori and Kristen, is there any final advice, comments you'd like to share with them?
No, just thank you for having us today. We're thrilled to be part of today's event.
Perfect. You good? Well, okay. All right. Thank you so much. Round of applause. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Don't forget to come and see us at the booth as well, too. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much. We got a little tight there. That's why. For us as well, too. There we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Perfect. So today we're here. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Renee Tavares. I'm a programs coordinator here at Startup Canada, and I am honored to be here for 3 special announcements. We have some great news today at Startup Canada Day on the Hill. So first of all, are you guys ready to hear about this? If you're, all right, perfect. So this is really exciting news. Today we are celebrating some amazing achievements of entrepreneurs. And to start us off, I'd like to introduce Wendy Mayhew. She's the founder of WISE 50 Over 50 Awards. And if any of you guys didn't know, the aging population is the newest and fastest growing entrepreneurship segment. And we are so excited to be here to be able to represent and celebrate these amazing individuals. And I'll bring Wendy up here without further ado so she can tell you more about it.
Hi there and welcome and thank you. Thank you everyone for your support here. So I keep getting asked, why did I do these 50 over 50 awards? As Renee said, entrepreneurs over the age of 50 are the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurship in the world. I kept hearing over and over again that we are never going to amount to anything. We are too old. We're going to go and work for one job, then we're going to retire and go start our business and become a contractor with that same business. I knew that was wrong, and so I set out to make it be known that we are amazing in what we are doing. Totally amazing. And I have with me today a couple of the judges that went through all of the applications, that they're going to say a couple of words about what they thought, what was going on, and then each company is going to be talking to you about their business. It's going to be very fast as we don't have a whole lot of time, but that's what it's all about. So we are here. Entrepreneurship over 50 rocks. And by the way, almost half of the companies, of the 50 companies, are here today. We have them from Nova Scotia right out to Northwest Territories. And we had applications and nominations from all across Canada with the exception of Yukon and Nunavut. So it's happening. Let's hear?
Next year.
Oh, and
Yukon.
next year. Okay, sorry, forgot about next year. So next year, this is going to be bigger and better, not only for Canada, but we're going global. So now, I'm going to hand it over to you, Simone. If you could just give me a few words on what you thought about the nominees' applications that you judged.
What did I thought about you? What did I really think? Yeah. So I head the Department of Seniors in Nova Scotia, and I spoke earlier at the Startup Gov stage about the wonderful contribution that older adults make. So our whole strategy in the department is to not look at the challenges of aging, but to see the extra 20 years of longevity in the last 100 years as an opportunity, and we should be doing everything to mine all the opportunity we can, including supporting seniors entrepreneurship. So when I went through all the applications, one thing that really struck me was how there were different motivations for everyone who started a business. Some people had unexpectedly thrown out of their regular job. Others had built up long experience in professional careers, wanted to put it into new use. Others bumped into someone by some coincidence and a spark happened. But one thing that came to mind and is really I'm reminded of by seeing all the faces here, there's a unique spark in these people's minds that makes them get up in the morning and want to do their own thing. And if we could find a way to bottle that voodoo and roll it around as a government, that would be the greatest thing. But and the reality is it's hard to meet people and know whether or not they've got that spark, but the reality is these people are here because they have that, and they are the examples of the great contribution that people can make even as they get older. And the survival rate, the 5-year survival rate for businesses by startups, by people over 50 is 70% versus 28% by everyone else. This is a good group as governments and as society to lay our chips and bet on, because these are people who are delivering the goods.
Well, I'm Jonathan Ortmans. I'm president of the Global Entrepreneurship Network. We work in building entrepreneurial ecosystems in 170 countries. And I have to tell you, there's no other startup event I've ever been to in the world where so many of you would show up from so many places. So this is just fantastic. I was honored to be a judge. I was also impressed by many of the same factors. I tell you what particularly impresses me about what we see here is the connection with your experience to date, your professional experience to date. Because one of the things that we teach young people is that when you're starting a business, you're conducting an experiment. And you don't really have to teach an older person that. They sort of understand that, you know what, it's not all about success or failure. It's the fact that you're going to collect information. And if you're about collecting really good information and building a strong company, you really need to have a team. And a team should have a disruptive person on the team, and it should be someone that brings unique knowledge of that field. And that's the most important contribution that I think I've learned. I've written a lot about seniorpreneurship, as we call it. I'm a great believer in the United States. Our data from our research, I'm also affiliated with the Kauffman Foundation in the United States, shows that the average age of a US-born tech entrepreneur is not 21 years old. It's not a kid in a garage. It's 39 years old. And you know why? Because typically a founder team is a team. And you have someone with unique knowledge of the industry and someone who's got some disruptive ideas. Whether that's someone who's part of the company or whether it's being someone that's around it. And the other thing we teach people is you want to stay away as long as you possibly can from taking outside capital, and particularly from giving up equity. And one of the great things that often we see with seniorpreneurs is that you've got a much greater chance that you're going to be able to self-fund for a longer period of time while you're getting started. And if you look at the Fortune 500 companies, for example, the fastest growing companies are the ones that started where they took the least amount of capital. So they either financed it from early customers or from their own investment. So I just think this is really impressive as the foreigner. And I would just say it's really great to be in Canada. I mean, for those of us who live in the United States right now, we are so happy to be invited away. But it's even greater to be here and realize that this is alive and well. And I certainly want to work. I did this with Wendy to learn about your companies, but also we've been conspiring to see how you guys can be a role model for other entrepreneurial ecosystems that are looking to give an opportunity for anybody in their society to be able to start or birth the new, figure out a better way of doing something to start a business. And I certainly was empowered by each of your stories, and thanks for having me as a judge.
All right. Hello, my name is Jacques Quentin. The name of the company is Can-Ino, and we take ice off of wind turbine blades. Thank you. I'm with them.
My name is Mary Taggart, and my company is Ottawa at Home Media, and my primary focus is to create a local lifestyle publication called Ottawa at Home Magazine.
My name is Rudy Richmond. I have a company called Virtual CSO. I started the company back in 2011 after a successful exit with a company here in Ottawa called Protus. Protus had the unique ability to sign 22,000 new customers a month every single month. And I've taken that sales IP and sprinkled it over another 30 companies here in Ottawa. And we've brought 3 additional companies to successful exit by acquisition and 7 others to a Series A or Series B. So it's all about scale, growth, and acceleration.
My name is Aris Economopoulos. I'm under 50. I'm representing our founder, Rick Emberley from Nova Scotia. Our company is boomersplus.com. We have 2 purposes. One is to put seniors and recent retirees with professional services experience to work in a way that fits their new lifestyle, which is more flexible. And the second is to give them tools and methods to structure that second act of their lives to extract the most value from their life. Thank you.
No, he's representing someone else.
My name is Maureen.
Go away with that, please. Victoria, tell him to take that away.
My name is Maureen Donahue. This is my business partner, Marlene Armstrong. Since 2011, we've been running a company called Unbridled Coaching. We partner with horses to do corporate and life coaching. Why horses? Horses are big, horses are fast, and our clients get big insights and fast results. So please come and see us. We've got lots to share. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Andy Butt from Reconnect from Grief. I help professional women transition that awkward stage of grief through the loss of a loved one and help them get their lives back on track. Why women, you say? Because men don't ask.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Bland. I'm the founder and CEO of Voice Found, a survivor-led national charity whose mission is the prevention of child sex abuse and commercial sexual exploitation. In Ottawa and Eastern Ontario, we provide frontline support and services for people that are being sex trafficked. And in 2018, we will be opening Canada's first health clinic specific for those 13 years of age and older who are at risk of, who are being, or who may be or have been sex trafficked. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Ken Grant. My business partner, Dan McLeod, are Dunvegan Loyalty Builders out of Halifax, Nova Scotia. We're a data analytics company. We enable our organizations to access and to interpret data they've never been able to access before, and we train them to do it themselves. And I got to tell you, we're not a startup. We began this when we were 57, and now, many years later, we had to reinvent our complete company and our branding and our marketing because times changed, technology changed, and we're doing it better.
All right. Lisa, before you get started, I'm sorry, we're getting telling to wind up. So can we just from now on, and I really apologize for this, Buddha timing though, can you just give the name of your name and the name of the company? And we ask if anybody wants to come and meet, they'll be over by my booth.
My name is Lisa Halsworth, and I'm co-founder and CEO of Rilia Technologies, software for managing chemicals.
I'm Marika Morris, and I founded Marika Morris Consulting with 30 years of research, evaluation, and training experience, specializing in equity issues like Indigenous recruitment and retention, and applying gender and diversity analysis.
My name is Peter Scherer, and our company is Grapevine Tours, and we do wine tours in the Windsor-Essex County region.
Hello, my name's Dave Stevens. I'm from Yellowknife, Northwest Territories. My business is called Borealis Bike Tours Unlimited. I offer custom fat bike tours year-round on rock, sand, snow, and ice. And this is an attraction that is gaining traction.
Good one.
Hi, my name is Mark Lamar. I'm a founder of Cumulus Dental, a software and hardware company devoted to diagnosing gum disease, and we're the next billion-dollar company out of Ottawa.
Bonjour, Faraj Nakli, president of Track Maps. We make maps and charts for the outdoors, printed and GPS compatible with all brands. Thank you, merci.
Hi, I'm Valerie Fox. I believe we need incubators in every town, every city, every academic institution. I help build them, and it's been marvelous. Thanks.
Oh, we can use this one? Yeah, okay. My name is Paul Tremlett. Our firm is Driver Seat. We're in the transportation business. We chauffeur people in their vehicle. Our social mission on the one end is to eliminate drinking and driving in the communities that we work in, and to build capacity in people's lives for their mobility needs by giving them new options.
Here, here. Holly Myers, my business is AquaCleanse Colonics from Halifax, Nova Scotia. And speaking of elimination, I help you get the shh out.
Hi, I'm Joanne Kuipers. My business is My Second Suite. I help people put legal suites in their homes. We handle construction, permitting, zoning, and placing the tenant.
I'm Alan Diamond, co-founder of Time Reaction.
We allow product development and production teams to globally manage their workflow and communication without the need for email and spreadsheets.
Hi everyone, I'm Sanjay Belkode. My partner Mark Hershey and I started a music technology company specializing in software and online communities.
Hi, my name is Steve McNally. I'm with Renewity Systems. We help manufacturers track and manage product returns and repairs and improving customer service worldwide.
Maureen Tate, Nova Scotia. Pet health is my passion and my business. And I'm here, 79 years young. And a second business to go through.
So there you have them. We had some, just at the final note, because I know you want me off this stage. The youngest were probably 51 or 52 that applied for these awards. The oldest one was 81. She started her cloud-based business 14 years ago at the age of 68. At 82, she's still running the business. So we're not going anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much for, this is so inspiring what you have created. I'm sorry, I'm not actually on the roster to speak.
It's your show.
Yeah. I know, we're behind time, gotta move. But what you have achieved is so amazing. Like, you brought tears to my eyes. The work that you're starting companies that aren't just the cool tech gadget, you know? It's companies that are changing people's lives and, oh my God, and solving social issues. Next year, Wendy, on behalf of the board and team at Startup Canada, this is going to be a huge ceremony, and we're going to make this amazing so that we can celebrate senior entrepreneurs. And what I want to make sure is that the audience is diverse. The audience includes young people too, because I truly believe in intergenerational entrepreneurship. And thank you so much, Jonathan Ortmans and Simone and all of these entrepreneurs. Wendy, congratulations. Thank you for the work you're doing for your startups, your employees in Canada.
Thank you. Just so you know, a lot of these businesses are intergenerational, so it is a big part of the whole movement, and this is a movement, and I thank you ever so much. Oh dear.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy.
Oh, did you all see your picture here?
Amazing. So another round of applause for the 50 over 50 and Wendy Mayhew. It's so inspiring, and we're excited to see you guys here next year. So we'll give them some time to get back to their seats. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Once again, congratulations to all the winners. They're very excited. Congratulations, Wendy. Really, we're so happy to partner with you. Well, thank you. Thank you for having us be a part of this, honestly.
And, sorry, Victoria, the one thing I did not mention, which I should have mentioned, and I do apologize, was thank you for partnering with me. I really, that was what I wanted to do, and it happened, so thank you.
Just the beginning, of course. So that was very inspiring. So now we have another very, very special announcement. I'm really happy to announce on behalf of the board and the team that Startup Canada has actually partnered with the Almas Jawani Foundation. And the Almas Jawani Foundation is all about fostering global equity through entrepreneurship. And today we are delighted to have Almas Jawani, the founder herself, to announce this special event and to talk more about the foundation and the work that we will be doing together. Yes, you're good. We'll have it.
Testing. Good afternoon. I said good afternoon. Hallelujah. My name is Almas, and I know some of you are having difficulties pronouncing my name. It's so simple. Almas, A-L-M-A-S. And I'll tell you the meaning of it. In a Muslim language, it means diamonds. In a Spanish language, it means soul. And in African language, it means angel. So you folks have the best of the best of the best. Thank you. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my sincere, heartfelt gratitude to Victoria and her awesome team for doing the fabulous work and who continue to do so. Round of applause for them, please. Victoria, I'd like to thank you. Thank you from my heart for the privilege and honor that you have accorded to me to share the stage with the thought leaders like yourselves on this historic day, Startup Day on the Hill. Thank you. A month from now, 19th of November, the United Nations will celebrate Women's Empowerment Day. And as we approach that day, it seems fitting that we are here today announcing the historic partnership between Almas Jawani Foundation and Startup Canada. Hallelujah. Does anyone speak Swahili here? Kama nataka mimi tasema na Swahili. Arabic? Ana halu, ana habibi, ma salam. Okay, I'll continue speaking in English. This partnership is about fostering a global culture through education, mentorship, investment, and community engagement that gives the birth to female leaders who create positive change in their communities and the world at large. Our foundation is focused and committed to steady progress through Eve's 5 E's: equality, education, entrepreneurship, employment, and energy. Of those 5 key priorities, personally, entrepreneurship has been the most important to me because I believe in its ability to empower everyone to create sustainable future for themselves and their communities. Est-ce que vous êtes avec moi? Si vous voulez, je peux parler en français avec vous, mesdames et messieurs. I'm going to quiz you later, so you better pay attention to what I have to say. We envision a world where societies are free of gender discrimination, where women and young generation is empowered to lead the change that they want to see. But we cannot make it happen alone. Partnerships are essential with the governments, civil society groups, businesses, and foundations, and committed individuals like yourself. When we bring our expertise and resources together, we become powerful force for progress. I would like to say powerful force of universe. It is critical that we as a nation and leaders of the enterprise continue to promote and deliver socio-economic agenda that has innovation and entrepreneurship as a cornerstone of our success. Why Startup Canada? A few years ago, I had the opportunity to meet with one and only Victoria and her awesome team at the Startup Canada headquarters, symbolically on International Women's Day. The synergy, or should I say spark, no wonder they're on Spark Street, the spark between our two organizations was immediately evident. Social enterprises like Startup Canada and of course our foundation in their own way are about connecting young people to education, skills, financing, and networks necessary to enable the continuum of sustainable entrepreneurship solutions. Jointly, Startup Canada and us, we intend to capitalize on this alliance and aggressively advance equality, entrepreneurship, diversity, and education, and actions which will promote positive connections. So, today is the first day of an alliance that is committed to creating positive change. Merci. Alors, comment pouvons-nous atteindre nos objectifs à créer ces changements? Comment? So how do we achieve our goal to create that positive change? We believe positive change can be brought about by granting and supporting equal access to education, employment, and equal access to entrepreneurship. That equality of access supports the empowerment of both men and women to thrive themselves as successful entrepreneurs in any region. What is also crucial is our ability to share our time and knowledge with women all over the globe, with the purpose of changing their lives, not only girls and women, in doing so, change whole communities and their societies. We know, Startup Canada and the Foundation, we know that the networks that we are building in Canada is changing the isolation and risk equation that is often associated with entrepreneurs' drive to achieve their vision. And I think all the leaders here, founders and the game changers gathered here today can attest to that common vision of making true difference in both our local and global communities. I should get more than 10 minutes. Those of you who know me, I don't have any friends simply because Podium is my best friend. I'm speaking in every different country almost every week. So 10 minutes is not enough. Okay, I'll cut down. I'd like to leave you with this. We live in a world with many challenges, both great and small. But the work that we do to serve others is what keeps our society moving forward. Do you agree with me? Yeah. There is no challenge that cannot be conquered when we work together towards progress. There is no challenge. Progress for one is progress for all. Change will not come from one action, one partnership with Startup Canada, or one decision. Rather, change will result from the collective actions of thousands working together to make it happen and adapt that particular change. And change begins with you. Your help is utmost important to us. Your donations, your sponsorships, your partnerships will help us empower new generation of entrepreneurs. And it is our hope that as we work together with the governments, NGOs, and private sector, that we create an enabling environment for new and thriving entrepreneurs. As leaders here today, you can make a huge difference and affect a significant change. You can also join hands with our foundation or Startup Canada to create a lasting positive impact. This is your call for action. Thank you for your participation and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you so much, Almas. We are so looking forward to working with you and to see how we can really inspire women entrepreneurs across the world, really. Round of applause for Almas. So on to our final announcement. And this one is really dear to my heart because this is a program I actually work on at Startup Canada. It's the Women Founders Fund. And we started this last year to support women entrepreneurs and women-led companies in starting and scaling their businesses. And for all of you women entrepreneurs who are in the crowd, you know how important that sort of support is at the beginning. So, and just to know that organizations are behind you and that there is support available to promote yourselves and your businesses that you're a part of. So to announce the winners, I'm delighted to announce, to present Lannis Anthony. She's a founding board member of Startup Canada and an amazing entrepreneur advocate and all. So Lannis, thank you.
Thank you. Hello, from the traditional lands of the Algonquin people, I'm happy to make this announcement. As the fourth of 4 girls born to or raised by a single mom, there's nothing that makes me happier than to celebrate women and women in society that have started to make a difference. Entrepreneurship has proved to be a catalyst for economic growth in many countries, including Canada. Equally as important is the critical role that women play. This fund will support women and operations of their businesses, not only to access opportunities, but mentorship as well. 148 billion. That's the number that is yearly contributed by women entrepreneurs to the Canadian economy. Yet less than 2% of those women in Canada have revenues over 1 million. Women are starting more businesses in Canada. As much as 1.5 million entrepreneurs in Canada of our 2.3 figure are women-owned businesses. Women are starting businesses at double the rate of men, and yet they only receive 4% of capital. That needs to change, and I'll be a part of that change in upcoming days, weeks, maybe even years. But that will happen, and I will be a part of that. I'd like every woman and man and everyone who agrees that our nation can be a stronger entrepreneurial nation to join me. But today is not about me. It's not about just a few entrepreneurs. It's about some special entrepreneurs, ones that have been recognized for their ability and their capacity to make change. We will announce 4 recipients of the 2017 Women Founders Fund. After announcing the recipient, I will invite them onto the stage for a photo op with their check. The recipients will receive a grant of up to $5,000 and a $2,500 Startup Canada marketing bundle, including a feature on the Startup podcast. And I know the fellow who interviews you. He's very handsome and very smart. And a guest sponsorship on Startup Chats. So, recipient number 1. The first grant is for $1,000 and goes to a Waterloo-based startup that is solving a problem that affected more than 50 million people in North America alone last year. We are talking about concussions. With their technology called the FITS, they are measuring, monitoring, and managing the impact on the brain. Please join me in welcoming Diane Mathias, CEO of SportFits. Thank you, everyone. As the wife of a former CFL player and someone who believes that sport is a good preoccupation for some people, I'm very proud to say that anything that can reduce concussions for young men and women will be appreciated. Recipient number 2, the second grant is for $2,100 and goes to a technology company empowering care for brain and mental health disorders. Their first product, Reveal Stories, is an app to collect and share data between a number of care teams. Their second product, Reveal Band, is a wearable that will measure indicators of anxiety in real time in order to help individuals understand and manage their anxiety. Please join me in welcoming Andrea Palmer, co-founder and CEO of Awake Labs. What I said to Andrea Palmer, just because I'm a disclosure freak, I suffered a stroke 2 years ago. And what is very important is that we begin to measure our anxiety, particularly women who undergo stress every day. So I've asked her to get my card, and I can assist in any way I can to help you get some capital. That's important. The third grant, for $3,000, goes to a fintech startup on a mission to reduce bad debt in Canada by developing innovative financial solutions. Their first product offers an easy and secure way to manage all your banks and bills in one platform. The third grant goes to Eloise Ambersley, the CEO and co-founder of Bilennial. You know what is amazing here is that if you reach out and make a connection with something and something great happens, that is what Canadians do every day. So thank you again. Our final recipient is the first place recipient and the final grant for $5,000. The grant goes to a company that is transforming the health sector. They are a Toronto-based medical device company dedicated to improving women's health. Yay! Thank you. So much appreciated. Through products like Eve Kit, a convenient at-home screening program, they are enabling women to screen for infections that cause cancer, pelvic inflammatory disease, and infertility. Please join me in welcoming Jessica Ching, CEO and co-founder of Eve Medical. It never ceases to amaze me how wonderful people enter into the Startup Canada community. Let us perpetuate that in every location across the nation, from sea to sea to sea. I know that we can grow a better Canada. Launch Up Canada, Startup Canada, it makes no difference. We can get there if we all work together. It has been a pleasure to make these announcements and to share in this celebration of our entrepreneurs, our female entrepreneurs, and I have been so pleased and proud to be a part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lannis, and congratulations to our 4 winners of the Women Founders Fund. Woo! You guys are truly inspiring, and as I heard your stories when I was reviewing all your applications, it was just so exciting to see the women entrepreneurs that are taking over Canada, and you guys are going to represent us not only in Canada, but on a global stage, so thank you. So that brings us to the end of the announcements portion. Did you guys have fun? Are you guys feeling inspired? Yeah. There are over like 50 or 70 winners on the stage just in 15 minutes or 45 minutes. It's pretty cool. Well, so that brings us to the end. It's been a pleasure to be here and to host this short portion of announcements. I hope you guys go ahead and enjoy the rest of the conference. The Scale Up stage will be back on, as well as the Canada stage soon. So yeah, do some mingling. And I'm also going to call the Women Founders Fund recipients back on stage for one final photo op with all of you on stage. So thank you. Have a nice day, guys.
the MC for this afternoon. As somebody over there just said, I'll be the Rivers Corbett of the afternoon for those that were here this morning. I'm thrilled to be here, of course. I'm Phil Tully from Startup Fest. We run events every year in Montreal. I must say, I have to start by congratulating the team at Startup Canada for an absolutely incredible, great turnout, beautiful event. Congratulations, everybody. You're doing a great job so far. So I'm emceeing the Scale Up stage, which is brought to us by UPS in partnership with Startup Fest and the Founder Institute. There is some killer content this afternoon on this stage. I actually think that some of this content, if not all of it, should be on the main stage, but I guess you can only have one main stage. But you're going to hear today from some extraordinary entrepreneurs changing the world with their companies. We'll hear some high growth secrets from Canadian tech leaders. There will be some fascinating scale-up companies on stage. There will be, of course, the iconic Bruce Croxon, Nicole Romanov, and Nicole Verkint from the Dragon's Den. We're streaming live today, so welcome to all those that are watching us at a distance. And please don't forget to use the hashtag Startup Day and SBW 2017, which stands for Startup Business Week 2017. So, without much further ado, we're going to kick off the afternoon with Andrea Palmer. She is the founder and CEO of Awake Labs, an AI-powered platform empowering care for neurological and mental health disorders. Andrea has been named the top 30 under 30. She's the winner of Startup Canada's Young Entrepreneur Award. She is the recipient of the Next 36 Outstanding Ventures Award, and in 2016 was the winner of Startup Tel Aviv. Clearly, our next speaker is a serious winner. Please join me in welcoming Andrea, who will share her story and lessons learned on how you can find your fit. Andrea, come on up.
Can I walk with? Yeah, okay. Hi, everyone. As you heard, I'm Andrea Palmer. It's really exciting to be here. I want to thank Startup Canada and the organizers of Day on the Hill. My journey with Startup Canada actually started 1 year ago here at Startup Day on the Hill, and it's been a pretty incredible ride since then, so thank you. And I want to start by telling you that I never wanted to be an entrepreneur, so I have no business being here on this stage. But I'm going to walk you through a little bit about my journey of how I did get here and give you 3 takeaways that you can possibly implement in your journey too. So how did I get here if I never wanted to run my own business? I thought business was evil. I thought people who did marketing were evil growing up. And I really love science and math and technology, and I became an engineer. I went into engineering. I fell in love with computers and technology's ability to impact the world. And in my final year, we joined a course that was an entrepreneurship course that paired business students and engineers. So I got to meet them and work with them a little bit. And we came up with an idea for a company that would measure anxiety in real time to support care for children with autism. And we started working with families in the autism community, and they could all immediately see how our idea and what we wanted to build could impact their daily lives. How they could say, like, yes, last week as I was going to the grocery store, if I knew my child was anxious, I wouldn't have made that stop, I would have done it the next day. Or for these 2 years of her life, I would have been able to better understand her and support her. And the course ended, and people said, when's it coming out? Please make this happen. We need this in my family. And that's how we became a company. And now I'm the CEO of Awake Labs, building technology to support care for brain and mental health disorders. We're using natural language and AI to understand the link between behavior and emotion, and we're starting in the autism community. We've been around for 2 years. We're a team of 5 people. We've moved from Vancouver to Toronto, but we've been all around the world looking at different ecosystems. I had the privilege of going to Singularity University in the Silicon Valley and learning how to think on a different scale. How do you impact the lives of 1 billion people? And then I went back to Vancouver, and we needed some money. So I moved to Santiago, Chile, and was part of the startup Chile community because they gave us $20,000 if I lived in Santiago, and built my company from there. And then I came back to Vancouver and joined the Next 36 in Toronto, and learned from huge business leaders within Canada who have built companies, sold companies, and done it before. And then we decided to move from Vancouver to Toronto. We went to Paris, we went to Boston, we went to Tel Aviv, and we saw these other ecosystems. We learned how people assessed risk differently, how they approached innovation and entrepreneurship. And through all of these experiences, I'll give you one concrete example of a takeaway that I had. So last year, as you heard, I won the Start Tel Aviv program that was hosted by Startup Canada and the Embassy of Israel. And our winner this year is actually at the back, Maayan Ziv. She's going to Jerusalem this year. And while we were there in Tel Aviv, they think about entrepreneurship so differently. They have one startup for every 290 people. 290 people, that's crazy. And we were sitting in this room. It was 32 women from 30 countries, by the way, this program. And they chose women because they want to support women entrepreneurs, but they also wanted to show the world that they're not giving anything up by supporting women entrepreneurs. If anything, these 32 women from 30 countries were phenomenal. And they have the same, if not better, ability to scale globally and to have an impact in the world. But Greece didn't get the memo, and they sent a man. And we were meeting with VCs one day, and the VC asked this Greek entrepreneur, he said, "What is your first market?" And he said, "Greece." And the VC said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, that's because that's where we live." And the VC said, "That's a terrible, terrible answer. We want you to think about, or you should be thinking about, what the personality of your target customer is." He was building like a home scale like farming solution for your kitchen. And he was like, you should find the community that needs this the most, that has the biggest willingness to pay. You should learn everything you can about that community, and then you should go sell it to them. Don't sell it in Greece. Maybe people in Greece don't need this. So out of all of these experiences that I've had, I've learned 3 big takeaways that I want to share with you so you can implement them on your journey. The first is by someone named Pascal Finette, and if you don't know him, you really should. And he says that strategy is much less about what you do, and it's much more about what you don't do. So you should figure out what it is you want to achieve. You should figure out all of the things that you need to do to get there, and then you should say no to everything else and be able to focus on that one thing. The second thing is 5 minutes, really? Oh, cool, okay. The second thing is by someone named Tom Chi. And Tom Chi is one of the co-founders of Google X, and was the chief user experience officer of Google X. And he says that you should not, he said, don't guess, learn. That thinking is a terrible way to think, and doing is the best way of thinking. Now, what does that mean? Thinking is a terrible way to think. That means if you're sitting at your boardroom and you're arguing with someone over what a feature should be, or what type of wording should you use, or where you should put the button, don't sit in that boardroom. Get out and talk to your users. He literally stands at shopping malls and interviews people as they walk by and says, can you use this interface? And watches how they interact with it and changes his buttons and everything according to that. We implemented this when we were developing our application. We had this idea that people could record data on an ongoing basis, either by writing into their phone or by speaking into their phone and then logging it. But we didn't know if people would actually be willing to speak into their phone to record certain types of data as they're supporting someone with autism. So we were going to develop a prototype to make this happen, but we realized a phone already has it. You already have an audio recorder on your phone. So what we did is we asked someone to use their audio recorder multiple times a day. They would send us the audio files. We would transcribe them on our computer, and then we would send it back to them. And we found that this had a huge impact in the way that they care for someone on a day-to-day basis. Don't guess, learn. And the third piece of advice is by a Canadian founder named Khalil Mangaljit. Does anyone here know the company Fix? No? You should. They're based in Waterloo. They're basically Uber for mechanics, so they send a car mechanic to your house. Khalil says, make sure you're doing one thing a day to move your company forward. And that sounds so simple, but it's really easy to get bogged down in emails or meetings, talking to people, taking 30-minute lunch meetings. But if you're not doing one thing a day, getting one extra sale, making one new connection, pitching to another investor, doing something that moves you forward, then your company is in a static place. So those are the three. Strategy is more about what you don't do than what you do. Don't guess, learn, and do one thing a day to move your company forward. Those are just the things that I've learned on my journey, and I'm continuously learning. And our team is trying to implement these on a day-to-day basis as we work to empower the lives of people with brain and mental health disorders. And I hope that you can take this and use it on your journey as well. Thank you.
Great job, Andrea. Way to kick things off. You know, we're going to hear lots of great advice from people, but when you have a winner like Andrea, who's in the thick of it, learning tons of stuff, and giving you great advice, listen to it. She's very keenly aware of what's going on around her. That's absolutely clear. Thank you very much, Andrea. Remember, don't forget to tweet using the hashtag StartupDay and SBW17. Next up is Shira Baberstock. She's a serial entrepreneur and an Indigenous scholar. Shira's business journey began in 2014 with the advent and the debut of Agwaho. Excuse me, I'm going to have to butcher that a couple of times. Agwaho Networks, Canada's first social networking platform dedicated to the empowerment of Indigenous businesses on a global scale. Since then, Shira has expanded her digital footprint, co-founding several Indigenous-inspired businesses, including her flagship company, Agwaho Equal Sources, a global consulting firm. Please join me in welcoming Shira to talk about thinking global and acting local. Shira, welcome up. Would you like this? Thank you, Shira.
Bonjour. Odemen Kwe Ndishnakas, Kebawik Ndonjaba, Wabijash Ndodam. My name is Shira Baberstock. I just introduced myself in Anishinaabe Bowen. My culture is Anishinaabe, and I would also like to acknowledge that we're on the traditional territories of my ancestors right now, here in Ottawa, the Anishinaabe people. I'm going to share my story with you today about being an entrepreneur and about the concept of thinking global, but also local at the same time. I love the story that Andrea told about how she said she never meant to be an entrepreneur. I actually have a very similar story. I actually ended up getting into business with my husband, and we launched it because we wanted to make things better for Indigenous people across Canada. And we had several conversations about what can we do to make things better. And finally, we just got to a point where we said, we've got to stop talking about this and we've got to do something about it. So he had a background in communications and public relations, and I used to teach computer software. So I said, how about we make a social network together? So we did. We created a small social network called the Agwaho Network, and it launched in 2014. So how does this connect to you? How does this connect to thinking global? How does it connect to entrepreneurship? Well, here's a little secret that I don't tell very many people. When we launched the Agwaho Network, we only marketed for Canada. That's it. We said it was going to be for Aboriginal people. That was before we all started using the word Indigenous. And it was going to be for First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. That was it. So when we launched it in 2014, we had a few surprises. One, we had a ton of non-Indigenous people join our social network. That was really cool. Here was the other surprise. Within the first week, we had a Maori from New Zealand join our social network. Then we had Native Americans join from the United States. And then we had Australian, Aboriginal, and Torres Strait people join from Australia. Then there were some people from South America, and then there were some people from Africa. We went global in the first week. So I just want to share that story because I don't think we had even registered the Agwaho Network when we launched it. And all of a sudden it was a global thing. So how does this connect to you? Here's what I've learned from that with the Agwaho Network. A lot of the stuff we're working on and that we care so much about in Canada right now, the things that we're talking about, other countries really care about it too. So when we wanted to create this social network to make things better for Indigenous people and also for non-Indigenous people so they could learn more about our culture, that's not just a phenomenon to Canada. Australia is talking about reconciliation right now. South America is working on it. The United States is working on it. So for those of you who are entrepreneurs, keep an open mind. You might think you have a local business, but if it's online, you may find you actually have a global market, and it's going to happen so much faster than you think it will. I think the original plan is let's pilot this tiny in Canada, and if it works, then let's market worldwide. But what do you do when it goes worldwide in the first week? So I wanted to share that story with you. Another story that I want to share, out of curiosity, how many of you are entrepreneurs? That's awesome. How many of you have online businesses? Okay. How many of you do consulting? Show of hands. Okay, so a good number. Okay, so I'll tell another story, and I think this will be helpful, especially for people with online businesses and consulting. Here's another story. So with our business, one of the strategies was to use social networking, and I started following people on Twitter and LinkedIn that were doing things where they were leaders in their industry. And I started talking to a woman from Australia back and forth on Twitter. And it turned out we were doing very similar work. So it turned into messages on Twitter, then it turned into Skype, then it turned to us meeting in Toronto when she came. And what ended up happening is we put together a group called the Wayfinders, where we brought together consultants from Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and people that had roots from South America. And everyone did something in business and procurement, and we ended up giving a workshop in the United States to an Australian delegation. And it was really, really powerful. We actually connected really well with one of the entrepreneurs who was Maori. And fast forward a year later, we found out that we had so many synergies with our business. So we ended up getting into a lot of consulting work after the Aguajo network. We had so many synergies with his business in Australia that we actually merged our companies. So we incorporated in 2015, and this year in 2017, we merged our company with an Australian-owned company. Now I said he's Maori, that might be confusing. He is Maori from New Zealand, but he lives in Sydney, Australia. So there's a good lesson and a takeaway that I want to share with you. Do you have a twin in another country? Really think about that. I'll tell you what it's done for our business. It's been incredible. I mean, now I can proudly say Aguajo EqualSource, it's a global company. There's Aguajo EqualSource here in Canada, and we also have headquarters in Sydney, Australia. All the dreams we've had in Canada about all the things that we want to do, we've shared all those dreams with our Australian counterpart, and he shared all his dreams with us. So now when I'm sitting in meetings with governments and with industry, I can say we have a global company, and guess what? These are the amazing things that we're doing in Australia. These are the amazing things we're doing in Canada. And guess what? When he's in Australia, he does the same thing. He says, these are the amazing projects that we're doing in Canada. And what it's done for us as a company is it's elevated the company because it opens a lot more doors, saying, I have a global Indigenous consulting firm. But what's the secret sauce here? The secret sauce is we found our twin in Australia. So I want you to think about your businesses right now. If you could be global, so if you could find someone who's very, very synergistic to what you do, and if you're open-minded to developing a long-term relationship with them, what could that do for your company? The other thing that's really incredible is knowledge sharing. So especially on the cultural level for me, I've learned so much from our business partner because he's Maori. And although like very, very different cultures, there's so many synergies. We're community-oriented. He wants to see things get better for Indigenous people, so do we. And I'm learning a lot about the cultures in Australia. I'm learning about the cultures. He's learning about the First Nations in Canada. We actually got invited to Colombia, the country of Colombia, to talk to them about their Indigenous entrepreneurs. So it opens a lot of doors. But I think even deeper than business is what can we learn from people from other countries. There are people who are just like you in other countries trying to work on very similar things. So I got the 1 minute mark. I'm gonna wrap it up. Oh, I gotta stop. Okay. So everyone, go global, think local. Miigwech.
Shira. Thank you very much, Shira. I even butchered your first name. It's really incredible. Honestly, there's clearly lots. When you're open, you're going to learn a lot. So thank you for being open. Thank you for sharing with everybody, Shira. Our next speaker is Kamal Minas. She's an entrepreneur, media maker, and investor, born and raised in Grand Prairies, Alberta. Let's hear it for Alberta, everybody. Woo! She's the founder of Co-Media, a digital media company that focuses on telling women's stories worldwide. In 2014, Kamal became producer, distributor of Dream Girl, a documentary that tells the stories of ambitious female entrepreneurs. In May 2016, Dream Girl premiered at the White House as part of the United States of Women Summit. Kamal was named one of Oprah's Super Soul 100, a list featuring extraordinary individuals that live life intentionally, create meaningful social impact, and bring inspiration to others. Please join me in welcoming Kamal Minas for her talk on redefining wealth.
Hey everybody, I am so jazzed to be here today. So, you guys heard a lot of the great stuff that happened to me the past couple years in that introduction. And I'm here to kind of dispel a bit of a rumor around success kind of being overnight, but also not coming at a cost. So, join me on this story. So in 2015, I decided to join Dream Girl, this film about female entrepreneurs. I saw the Kickstarter campaign for it. My co-founder started it and raised over $100,000 in 30 days, and it landed in my inbox. And immediately, I was like, I need to help bring this to life. And bring it to life we did. So in the midst of that movement, I was based in Ottawa and then moved to New York City, but my healthcare was here in Ottawa. So I had to make a routine trip back to have some blood work done. And so I went to the doctor's office to get the requisition, was gonna go get my lab work done and then come back. And I went in to get this requisition, which I do every couple months because I have some thyroid issues, no big deal. And my doctor looks at me and says, "We have some results here. Has anyone talked to you about this?" And I remember the paper underneath me crinkling and me wondering, I wonder what the hell this guy's talking about. I don't know what these results could be from. And he looks at me and he says, "So no one's talked to you about this?" And I said, "No." And he said, "You have dermatofibrosarcoma protuberans." And I was like, I can't even pronounce that. But something stuck with me, one word, and it was sarcoma. And I said to the doctor, "Do I have cancer?" And he said, "Komal, yes, you have cancer." The blood drained out of my body. All I heard after was womp, womp, womp. And it took me a second and I came back to life and I said, "I'm pretty overwhelmed. Is this normal?" And he said, "Yes, Komal, it's very normal." Now, the tragedy of that moment in my life wasn't my cancer diagnosis. I am now a cancer survivor. I underwent 2 surgeries. I'm happy to be on this stage, happy and healthy. The tragedy, thank you, the tragedy of that moment was not my cancer diagnosis. The tragedy was that the first thing that came to mind was, I hope this doesn't get in the way of my work. We're building a movement. My health doesn't matter. Guys, hustle harder, startup grind, all of these hashtags that you're putting on your Instagram are bullshit. Let me tell you. Because without your health, you are nothing. So I'm here to help redefine this concept of wealth. A main pillar of that, as you've heard, is health. Without it, you're nothing. But I want to rewind a little bit. How did I get here? How did I get to that moment in the doctor's office where, to me, the only thing that mattered was, how do I get back to work? My examples of wealth and success in life came from 2 places. One, mainstream media. Who here has seen Wolf of Wall Street? Who here has seen Leonardo DiCaprio very elegantly falling out of a car because he's so high on Quaaludes that because he has amassed so much wealth on Wall Street? We've all seen that scene, a lot of us? That wasn't the kind of wealth I wanted to build. That wasn't the kind of entrepreneur and leader that I wanted to be. I didn't want that life. So I looked to the only other example of wealth and success that I had, and that was my family. I come from a family of immigrants. Who here comes from a family of immigrants? We work really hard. We have a chip on our shoulder and we have something to prove. My parents came here in 1974, and I don't even know if my dad knows what a day off looks like. He's not planning for retirement. He's built an empire and it needs to run until the day he dies. That was my example of work. So when I was sitting on that doctor's office table and thinking to myself, not about my health, but about work, of course that is what I would have done. It was ingrained in me from the day I was born. It took me so long, you guys, so long to realize how effed up that was. I didn't tune in right away. 2 weeks before we went to see Oprah, I had my first consultation with my oncologist. 2 weeks to the day before we went to the White House, I had just come out of surgery. The same week that I had my first magazine cover, I went under for surgery. None of it fazed me because I was hustling harder and I was grinding. That's what mattered, right? No. I got even more sick in January and I had to exit my company and I had to move back to Canada and I had to start picking up the pieces of my life. The devastation chokeholded me. And I finally had to reevaluate and redefine what wealth meant to me and what success meant to me. The two things that are core to that, health. If I haven't hit it home enough, then I'm sorry. But without health, you're nothing. Health is wealth. If you build your startup and you get to IPO and you're scaling and suddenly you drop dead, or suddenly you're diagnosed with cancer, or suddenly you can't sleep and you have insomnia, you're nothing to your company. Your productivity is based on your health. To be a high performer of a lot of these people we look up to, the Richard Bransons, the Tony Robbins, the Oprahs of the world, they have people managing their entire health regime and every morsel of food that goes in their body. That's how they got to that level. So what appointments are you going to book this week? What acupuncture are you going to go do? What massages are you going to book in? What psychologist appointment are you going to do? I'm here to encourage that. Because if you do that, your longevity is increased. If I'm choked out, legacy doesn't matter. The long-term growth of my company doesn't matter because my company has to shut down. That's not sustainable. So the second pillar that I'll share with you is community. There's nothing like being diagnosed with cancer to show you who your ride or dies are. I learned that word from the youths. I like to think I'm sometimes a youth, but ride or die is out of my vernacular. But a lot of people ghosted on me when I was diagnosed with cancer. A lot of people emotionally checked out from me because they couldn't relate to me. I was in a startup space. We had to work. Anything that had to do with empathy, cancel, remove, delete, backspace, that part of your life doesn't exist. Well, that's super effed up. So a lot of people that came and showed up for me were people who truly love me and who I really care about. And when I hit rock bottom and had to move back, they're the people that I made sure to see every week. They're the people who supported me in my rising. They're the people who made sure that I elevated and got back to this stage, because I wouldn't have been here without them. So invest in the people around you that you love and adore. Who are you going home to? Who do you want to celebrate your biggest highs with? And who are the people who are authentically showing up for you and not making your success about them? Because if you surround yourself with people who make you feel like shit, they're not going to be there when you crash. Make sure they're lifting you up. Make sure they're filling you up. These are the people you want to surround yourself with. I got 1 minute left. Last piece, legacy. Invest in the communities you surround yourself with, especially in these spaces. Entrepreneurs are surrounded by entrepreneurs. If your friend's company is doing well and you happen to have some capital, reinvest it. If you live in a community that you love that has an organization like Startup Canada there, invest in it, donate, give that money forward. Because whatever you make in this life, when you die, it's gone. That shit don't matter. What matters is your legacy. They say you die twice. Once when you're put in the grave, the second time when your name is uttered for the last time. How long do you want your name to be remembered and uttered on this earth? That is what motivates me now, because nothing else matters. I faced death. I looked it in the eyes and said, no, I'm staying here. I'm going to do the work I need to inspire others and rise. And I want to build an army of people who are wanting to do that with me. So let's redefine wealth together. Let's be the role models that we need in the entrepreneur space to make sure that our lives are meaningful, full, and just let's crush it. I'm out.
Thank you for that perspective. Absolutely wonderful, beautiful. Happy to have you here. We're going to keep things moving here. We've got a very special guest coming up next. Our guest speaker who gave a keynote talk earlier is Dax Da Silva. He'll be joined by Bradley Grill. Dax is the creative mind behind Lightspeed, and if anybody's been following social media and the news over the last couple of hours and days, Lightspeed has made a major announcement. I'm sure you guys will be talking about it. Lightspeed is, of course, the platform used by over 45,000 customers worldwide to run better businesses. Dax is also the founder of Never Apart. Never Apart is a cultural nonprofit bringing together positive social change and unity. Dax Da Silva is the founder, again, of Lightspeed. Never Apart joins us now for a conversation moderated by Bradley Grill on how Canadian companies can leverage diversity to grow and scale. I think I can say for all, we are extremely proud to be Canadian today, Dax. Thank you for everything you do for the Canadian economy. So come on up. You guys have mics there already?
How is everybody? Good? Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here with us. It's pretty exciting. Been a pretty exciting week for us. So I think it's, whenever we do these talks, I think it's really important. Our first question is always, Dax, can you explain a little bit what exactly Lightspeed is?
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, Lightspeed is a cloud-based platform. Well, it's actually a few platforms for independent businesses, retailers, and restaurateurs. And it's helping those small businesses and the businesses with a little bit of complexity with inventory or table service in the case of a restaurant, helps them bridge into the digital age. So it's point of sale software, but it also manages the back office or kitchen.
And you've been coding since 13 years old. So how did your childhood shape your perception of the business world?
Right. So I come from a family of not necessarily entrepreneurs. I come from a family of pretty artistic, creative people. My dad was a graphic designer. He used to bring home a Mac when I was 8 or 9, and by the time I was 12, I got my own Mac and kind of geeked out and started programming and apprenticed for an Apple developer by the time I was 13, and then built software all through my teens and 20s. Started Lightspeed when I was 28. So always was a sort of business-oriented, did consulting on my own up until 28, and then I started Lightspeed and had a team.
And so in university, you studied computer science.
Well, briefly.
Yeah. So your families are pretty artistic.
Yeah.
How did that shape the influence of Lightspeed's first point-of-sale software that we did?
Right. So I think Lightspeed's initial interface looked a lot like iTunes. I used a lot of design, and because I did a year of computer science and I switched to art history and religious studies, I would never have considered myself an engineer. I really built the original software based on great UX, great UI, and that's I think what really sold the software is that something that was complicated, like running a store, was made really simple. When people looked at the software, they could really understand what was happening in their store, and they felt back in control of their own business. And that was really the first phase for Lightspeed. The next was, helping. I guess around 2009, 2010, we were seeing Amazon, start making statements like, retail is dead. And at the same time, Apple was starting to open its own stores, and they had mobile checkout, and they had people didn't go to this big counter. Apple was making the sale interactive, and we worked with Apple to bring that same kind of technology to Lightspeed so that all small businesses could have mobile checkout. So the first stage was making it simple. The second stage was mobile checkout. The third stage was the cloud, because as these stores start to open multiple locations, as they wanted to connect to e-commerce, as they wanted to connect to third-party tools, having it all on a local server in their store made that very, very difficult. So the cloud really unlocked a lot of potential for these stores. And then the fourth big evolution, which we're in right now, is omni-channel, which is if you're a retail store that's brick and mortar, you've got to have an online presence. Even if you don't sell a lot online, you've got to be discoverable online, you've got to have your inventory online, or you're not going to be in the game when somebody searches you on Google.
And so this week we made a pretty important announcement for Canada. I'd love for you to talk about that announcement, tell everyone here what's been going on with Lightspeed, but also talk a little bit about the early days, because it's been 12 years and it's an incredible journey. So what a little bit about the early days of Lightspeed.
Right. So I talked a little bit about it in the keynote. That we bootstrapped Lightspeed for the first 7 years, meaning we grew, from 0 to, about 8 million in sales in the first 7 years, and I honestly, I would never trade that period of time of bootstrapping and really understanding who we were as a company, our DNA, our culture, because once we took funding, and this is our 4th round of funding since 2012, and we've raised a total of $292 million US over the course of those 5 years, but we kind of refused funding for the first 7, and I think that because we did acquisitions once we took the first investment, and we expanded so internationally and opened so many offices, there's 8 offices around the world, really knowing who we are has really helped with culture. I always say Lightspeed is a company that's built around culture just as much as code. And so company culture, you're never going to have the same culture in Lightspeed Montreal as you do in Lightspeed Amsterdam, but it's the values across all the different offices that help us grow so quickly when it's such a chaotic, fast-paced environment.
In 2015, as if you weren't busy enough, you started a cultural nonprofit called Never Apart.
Yeah.
Tell everyone a little bit about what that mission is and what Never Apart does.
So Lightspeed moved offices in 2015. We were at 130-ish people in Montreal. We had more people elsewhere, but we overflowed this beautiful office that we had in Milex, which is a very hipster neighborhood in Montreal. We had an outdoor pool. It was like 12,000 square feet on 2 floors. It was great, but we outgrew it. We started to spill out into other buildings right in the neighborhood. So we moved to a beautiful 120-year-old ex-luxury railway hotel that's related to the Chateau Frontenac and the Fairmont in Banff, and we moved into this building that had been abandoned. But what I decided to do is take the old office, which I had bought for Lightspeed before we had investors, and turn it into a cultural hub. And the reason why I thought that was important to do is, I moved to Montreal in 2001, and from Vancouver, really benefited tremendously from the amount of culture that was being created by people in the city. And that really influenced and inspired Lightspeed on our journey. And I felt that it was an opportunity to give back and help emerging artists. At Lightspeed we help budding entrepreneurs, and we help give these young leaders, or all ages, leaders in their communities, but restaurateurs, retailers, we give them the tools and we give them a platform. And what Never Apart is a platform for young artists, emerging artists, and established artists that want to try something fresh. And it's 12,000 square feet of gallery space. We do films, we do music events, and it's adding to the cultural landscape of the city and internationally, because we do pop-ups in other cities and bring a lot of international artists into the city as well.
Yeah, and I think, since Never Apart opened 2 years ago, there's been over 30,000 visitors, 450 artist collaborations. Every season there's a new exhibition that pops up, and with multiple artists. It's really an inspiring place to have in Montreal.
Yeah, I thought, I was a little afraid that it was going to be double the work, which actually it is. But when you have something that's a creative outlet that you have passion for, it makes you fall in love with the thing that you had originally, which was, I've actually enjoyed my time at Lightspeed even that much more because of having this other outlet, for sure.
Do you think space or location impacts innovation?
Space or location?
Like office space.
Oh, office space. Well, yes. I think the office environment that you create, that's one of the responsibilities of the leaders. You have to create an office space that inspires people, that allows people to gather, that allows innovation to occur, and reinforces the culture that you're trying to create in your company.
When you first started Lightspeed, you knew almost immediately that the focus was going to be on the independents. So the boutiques that we all visit in our communities, the retailers, the restaurateurs, those are our customers. Why was that so important for you at the beginning and stays true to us to this day?
We've been really tempted over the years and have had a lot of interest from big enterprise type retail and restaurant companies to tailor Lightspeed for them, and we've kind of resisted that and built a platform that anybody can extend, but we only really build one version of it. And the reason is that we've always wanted to be on the side of democratizing big box tools for the independent, for the little guy. Well, not necessarily the little guy, because a lot of them have grown to many stores with the technology. And I think the reason is, we have an opportunity with the software to help independents have a competitive edge and keep our cities unique. If every business in a city is the same, is the same chains you see everywhere, there's no color or texture, in any city or town that you're in. And I think that drives the passion in our for the people that work for the company. A lot of our favorite businesses, favorite places to go eat, go to the bar. These are places that run on our software, and it's motivating because we've helped that business owner realize their dream.
And what are so we work with many different retailers. What are some of the verticals that we do really well in?
Yeah, so it's like high inventory. On the retail side, it's like high inventory types of scenarios, like bike, pet, clothing boutiques, sporting goods, electronics. These are the kinds of jewelry. These are the kinds of verticals where inventory tracking is valuable, and you need analytics, which we provide to really help you decide where to put your capital in terms of buying new inventory. Exactly. Yeah.
And you mentioned it earlier, but I'm going to go back to it a little bit. So you often say that we're a company infused with culture just as much as code. And I know that in the early days of Lightspeed, we got to know our culture really, really well. But you at Lightspeed, as our CEO, as our founder, culture is really important for you. And why is that?
Well, culture is important because it gives people the drive, the motivation. Why do they come to work? Why do they bring? Our goal is to have them do the best work of their lives at the company. And so we've got to create a supporting culture that allows them and sets up the atmosphere and sets up the relationships and sets up the way that people communicate with each other in order for them to do the best work of their lives. You have to support that with great culture.
What is we've mentioned this, Lightspeed has grown significantly. What is your approach to leadership?
I think as the person at the top, it's something you have to reevaluate every year, especially at our scale of like, what does the company need from me now? And that has changed a lot. At the beginning, I was the developer. I developed the software from 2005 to 2010. I don't think we would be able to grow if I was still debugging the original software. Later, I was very involved with the design teams, the marketing teams, and then today I do a lot of the PR and speak to people about our story inside the company and externally, and also help our leaders create leaders within the company, because you can't do it all on your own. So empowering other people and mentoring leaders is a big part of the job today.
So this notion, everyone talks a lot about community and collaboration these days, and how is that important for you in running both Lightspeed and Never Apart?
Community and collaboration. So it's well, how do you mean?
Well, we've worked with TIFF, so we were just in TIFF. Yeah. We've done some work with Compe, a great organization, and our LA events. And
so for example, we are doing more things that collaborate with other organizations. We offer what we can in terms of services and so on. For example, Canpe, which is a foundation for Haiti that was started by Arcade Fire. Arcade Fire uses our software in their restaurant in Montreal, and we donated POS systems to help them raise money at a VIP event in New York. These are the kinds of things that we like to do that allow us to give back, to contribute. TIFF is a great example of something that we can be really proud of in Canada. This is an international event, and we did the gifting lounge with our software.
What are your views on independent retail the landscape, like what we're dealing with in Canada right now. And we've done a number of roundtables with independent retailers. So what's some of that feedback, and what are your personal thoughts?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. We've done like I think 5 or 6 roundtables around the world with retailers and restaurateurs. And what's surprising is the amount of optimism and excitement around expansion. You know, you see headlines of traditional retailers having challenges, but independents, not that every independent's going to work out, but independent retailers and restaurateurs are. You know, when they have the right tools, when they have the right systems, are planning their second location, are planning to go online. Should we take some questions?
Great. Well, I wanted one last question. Is we addressed it a little bit this morning, but kind of aside from us being IPO ready, the future for Never Apart and for Lightspeed.
Yeah, I mean, for Never Apart, you know, I think what we're working on right now a lot is our online magazine at neverapart.com, more video content so that the project can exist beyond Montreal, and maybe perhaps we'll do Never Apart centers in other cities. The future for Lightspeed, I think, is, you know, we just got funding. It's the largest funding round in Canadian history, and I think we've got, you know, some really big plans for expansion. We've done international expansion over the last couple of years. We do think that the product is needed. There's demand for it around the world. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dax.
Thank you.
I think we have a couple minutes, so I think we can open up to a few questions.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask a question. So, like you said, in the first few years, for 5 years or something, you started developing the software. For you, what was it more important to actually start generating revenue and get users on board, or to go and get investment from other investors? Or
It's a great question. So, was the priority revenue, or was the priority getting investment? The priority was revenue. I mean, we sold our beta of our software. And that's, you know, something I tell. Now, things have changed. You know, we have SaaS-based, cloud-based software where, you know, when we were selling software in 2005, we were able to sell software for, you know, $3,000 to $5,000 for an installation. That could pay a few people's salaries. You know, if we sold a few, we could do that. Now, there are ways, even with SaaS-based systems, if that's what you're developing in the cloud. If you're in tech, I mean, I'm not sure what business you're in, but there are ways to, you know, sell a year of a monthly priced software, but revenue will drive your growth. You know, and I was just speaking to a gentleman earlier about his business model. One of the best pieces of advice I got very, very, very early. Well, there's two things I want to note. One was pricing. I had come up with a price for the software that I thought was comparable to other Mac-based business softwares, and the best advice I ever got was multiply that by 4. You know, and we were able to, because of the value that we were the operating system for a store, and that allowed me to. Well, first of all, the software was perceived as much higher value. We were able to put much more resources into the software because of the pricing. So the software got better and better much faster. We were able to have better support people, better salespeople. You know, it just improved everything. So I think pricing is important. You need to be able to sustain your business with revenue. Nobody's going to invest in a company that doesn't have a revenue model. So I think it's definitely how do you make sure your idea goes from an idea to something that generates revenue, because that's when investors get excited.
like, what if you needed a large amount of users? Let's say for Facebook, for example, they needed like a large amount of users on their platform before they can actually start getting revenue. So is it good to get that revenue model in place and just to show investors?
Yeah, I think you need to prove some kind of model. I mean, it depends on the idea, but if you get user traction and there's engagement, but you haven't figured out monetization, I think we're a few years past being able to pull that off. There might be a handful of companies in the world that have been able to pull that off without everybody else has to actually make real money in their business. So I think it's really important. And the other piece of advice that I didn't believe when I started was write a 3-year business plan. And we were forced to, in order to get a number of grants in some programs that exist in Quebec. And I was like, as an art student, I was like, oh, this is going to be, an exercise that we do and never look at again. And that business plan was so accurate that we hit year 2's projections right on the head and exceeded year 3. And it helped us decide what we were going to do and what we weren't going to do. And it still is very true to the type of customer we help, and our market hasn't changed. Maybe our tactics and our distribution's changed, but the business plan is really, really key to really clarifying what you're going to do. Even my sister is doing a business right now, and she's got a 6-month plan. I'm like, 3-year plan. Because what happens after, how do you know you're on target? How do you know that you have any milestones? So you have to have a revenue plan, and you have to have a 3-year business plan.
And you do that like in the beginning?
Yeah, we did that right at the beginning. Yeah. I mean, we had the software under development, so we had a pretty clear idea of what it was going to do. And we had a pretty clear idea that we were going to use resellers to distribute the software. So we had some elements, and we never really deviated from that plan. I mean, we definitely went much further in some regards, but the plan is still very true to what we do today. We might now do restaurants, we might do now e-commerce, but it's very, very, very in the spirit of what we had in that business plan, which I didn't think was of any value. So I think that's an important exercise. It also helps you plan out. There's the written part, and then there's the spreadsheet part, which is like, what staff am I going to need in this month, in year 2? How much revenue am I going to need to support that staff? And if you have a shortfall, then you need investment. If there's a shortfall of like a few $100,000, you're like, okay, by this time, and I'm going to need this kind of people and these developers, I'm going to need $100,000. And either you find that through family and friends or seed money, but at least you've got a plan that you're on track or you're not on track, and you can know along the way whether you have to scrap the plan and pivot and do something else in terms of what your focus is.
How are you? So you obviously created the software with your expertise. For somebody who's not technical but looking to create, for example, mobile app technology, what kind of advice do you have in terms of creating that MVP and then eventually the final product? Do you look for a student to do that? Do you hire a full-fledged technology company to do that?
Yeah, so I think there's so many amazing examples of people that are not developers or tech people that have built amazing tech companies, right? Fortunately today there's lots of tools where where you can get lost and where you can sink a ton of money and outsource development and be basically it's like a black hole of funds. There's tools like today like Sketch and InVision where you can from beginning to end you can sketch out a mobile app if you're doing that or an online app, and you can do every part of the UI, the UX. You can really spec out properly a workflow, because that's where it tends to, and you can actually have people test what the app's going to feel like and get feedback without writing any code. And you can get people quite excited and use a designer to either do wireframe or to do like a fully looking functional app and that people can click through. And you can save yourself a ton of money by not doing that by coding all of those steps. Because once you have that design and that workflow and that's usually what people love about an app, or what people will just delete something right off their phone, right? And so there's great tools available today where any person should be able to do that product management / UX job, and you should keep in control of that job. And when you do outsource your development, whether it's somebody that's in another country, or there's many great programs in Canada to be able to I don't know about Ontario, but in Quebec we have lots of programs to get that first developer salary paid for, and so on. So there's lots of government support to get some of that, maybe that early development to help with that.
I'm in Montreal, so what are the names of those programs? Do you know?
Well, there's SR&ED, which is that's a pretty big one. There's lots of small organizations like Fondation Montréal Inc., SAGE, where you can get smaller grants. But there's e-business, which is more along the lines of SR&ED. These can get developers or people that are support admin staff, those are technical types of people, but not developers, to get their salaries covered.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Good luck.
Sure. One more question from the Senate gentleman.
Yeah.
What's an advice that you'd give to, let's say, your 20-year-old self?
Well, I think, my 20-year-old self, okay, but before starting a business? That's a good question. I usually, when I get asked this question, I tell people to write a business plan and to have a revenue model. So what advice would I give my 20-year-old self? I would say this. It's basically what I did at 20. I started computer science. I realized that I learned a lot in that 1 year. I took a year off to really to do more consulting and to learn, to get my feet wet in the business world. And then I went back and I studied what I had real passion for, what I really wanted to learn, which was art history and religious studies. And that's really translated into the Never Apart project, which has always been a really deep passion for me to explore culture and ways to change the world in that are not tech, So I studied that stuff, but then it now is manifesting in a project that's always sort of been within me. The other piece of advice, so that I guess that advice is to study what you love. Don't do things because you think you're supposed to do X, Y, or Z. But the other thing that's important is that while you're doing those things, have lots of projects on the side. I always had 2 or 3 businesses going on that were development while I was doing liberal arts courses. So I had consulting, building software, and I was doing tech support. So I was working with people, which I loved doing tech support, problem solving, troubleshooting, which really helped me, I think, throughout my life.